Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for North America Red, North America Blue as well to take on Brands Hatch here this evening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Glad to have you. This is the the last broadcast of the day. We had EU earlier on, about 6 hours ago, and they put on one hell of a show. Simon Bauer winning by a landslide. And the rest sort of following suit. Some pretty clutch moments from some drivers to save some slides. And we're hoping North America's got that covered here. Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Amo, and I would welcome you to tonight's broadcast presented by Simrigs. So drivers right now out on track 4. Practice session. Go over some stats here. So we had the race last week at Paul Ricard, sorry, not last week, 2 weeks ago actually, at Paul Ricard. We are actually just coming off of what is effectively a bye round for these drivers. We did have the per-mobile 12 hours of Bathurst last week. Exciting stuff there. A few drivers in this split and in the red split did participate in that event, so good to see them back as well. But looking back at the results from last week, it was none other than this man here, Kenneth Portis, who won that first race with Loverink and Fernandez joining him on the top step of the podium. Sleek looking livery as always. And then for the Pro-Ams, it was Tizaro, Habe, and Frizza. Amateur class, Toribio, No, and Raworth. And then for silver, for those yet to be rated, it is Flores, Baxter, and Raducanu. And then for that second round, of course, it was that super sprint, so we had those two races. Dornelis, Flomger, and Portis finding himself back into that top 3, so he's coming off of a very good first race, looking to keep that ball rolling. He is only 4th right now, just a little over half a second back of the fastest time set by Flomger. Flomger, a 22.94. We did see a 22 in the EU split. I think it was roughly the same time, actually, from Simon Bauer. So that was quite a feat from Simon, but the gap to second place was much larger. We're looking at only about a 10th down to Landry. I believe in EU, the gap at that point was probably somewhere in the, I think, 4/10 to half a second range, if memory serves. But yeah, very good start to the season for Portis. He's going to look to carry that on. And then Pro-Am, Tezaro again picking it up for the top step for the black-colored numbers. Not here at the moment, unless he got moved up, but no, it doesn't look like it. We have a relatively small grid here tonight, unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll be having plenty of action. And then it was Tezaro, Frizza, Habe, that was the Pro-Am, and then the Amateur, it was No, Toribio, Rawer, so the same 3 just sort of swapped around a little bit. And then for the Silvers, it was Vasquez, Baxter, and Raducanu. So some drivers looking to continue their good fortune, others looking to get that streak going. Jonathan Clifford swapping out the livery here this time around. Driver who has done incredibly well here in North America. And of course he's going to be looking to keep that going. Ike Raulu, another new driver here in North American Blue. Pretty good so far, made it to the end. Some drivers failed to do that. Raducanu, of course, top step for the silver, or sorry, not top step, third place for the silver drivers last week. So we'll see if he can do that again. We do have an hour race coming up, so there's not going to be a second chance. You get one shot at a podium finish, and you better make it count. Jesse Torbio, second place on the amateur in that second race, but first in the first round. So if we're going off of patterns, should be top of the amateur class, but right now it's No. Who's denying him that? No, currently sitting P13 here in free practice with 24.69. I guess it's customary to say nice. But Portis here has picked up a couple positions into P3. Ben Keogh, very nice looking livery. I'm trying to guess the state. Not Utah. Not fast as the license plate. Yeah, I could agree. The Aston Martin does suffer a little bit in the top end category, but is able to hold its own pretty much all around. Very good starter car for anyone new to ACC. Very beginner friendly. And there you go. Look at that. Even slamming it into the wall. Beautiful. So a minute 15 to go. Fabio Pitol, P17 right now in the pro category. So far not putting in a very good lap. He's only one of 2 BMWs on the grid. We don't really count the safety car, but of course we always count it in our heart of hearts. As Skylar Loverink is up there in 5th position with a 23.74. So this is actually a lot closer in the top 3 now that I look at it compared to EU. So we should be on for a very, very good fight here tonight. And tonight, one thing that we won't be looking forward to, unfortunately, is Sam Raworth. He is dealing with some personal things. So, Sam, I will hold down the fort. And of course, hopefully we see him again next week at Misano. Fernandez joining the server. So, 888 Mercedes looking to get some action here tonight. But looking at the schedule next week, we are going to be at Misano for the Mini Endurance Series. For those of you who are new to OOR and are maybe joining us for the first time, of course, welcome. We're always glad to have you. The Mini Endurance is one of 3 formats that we run here in the Sprint Series. So we have, obviously, the regular sprint, Thomas Stagg doing some sick drifts. We have the regular Sprint Series, or Sprint races, which are only an hour. And then we have the Super Sprints, which we had last week. And then we have the Mini Endurance. Now, these regular sprints, an hour-long race. The Mini Endurance is an hour and a half. But there's no mandatory pit stops, which throws in a little bit more strategy than having the mandatory stop that we are going to see here tonight. And that extra 30 minutes, some drivers do get caught out by that, but not for our guys and gals on grid. Some very talented drivers. Maybe there's a moment of realization where you have half an hour to go, but usually collect yourself rather quickly. And, well, you get the race done and dusted, and from there, well, it's pretty easy stuff. But while we're waiting for Jonathan Clifford to start the first flying lap of qualifying, I think we take a moment and just thank this season's sponsor, Simrigs. Of course, they have been a very common name here since last season. Melbourne-based sim racing supplier. If you happen to live on that big beautiful island, or you happen to live on that little tiny one known as New Zealand just next to it, they've got you covered. And if you live outside of that, maybe you're in North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, whatever it may be, send them an email. They'll be more than happy to do some business with you. And of course, our Patreon members do get 5% off their purchases, so take advantage of that. And, well, my little sponsorship spiel couldn't have come at a better time, as Jonathan Clifford is now going to take us around Brands Hatch for the first time. Let's ride on board with the 999 Lamborghini. We had some very solid showings from Lambo in the EU race, and Clifford maybe missing his break point a little bit. But this is a circuit that personally I enjoy. I don't know about you guys in chat at home or watching later on in the future, if you guys like Brands Hatch. I've always had a soft spot for it. There's a couple of corners I can't deal with. This is one of them. It seems like no matter what I do, I can never get it just right. But for these drivers, it is going to be pretty easy, I must say. Run up through this very fast right-hander. I've seen some people just go off the throttle, but I'm not brave enough to even attempt that. And now we head towards Sheen, which is one of the most famous corners here at Brands Hatch. An uphill blind right. You almost go off of feel sometimes when you get to this point. You don't have a brake marker. You use these little orange bits of barrier as sort of the cue to turn in. And for these drivers, it's been a lot of practice here at Brands Hatch to get some of these times. So Jonathan Clifford out of the final corner and onto the front straight. We're going to see where he ends up. What is the bar going to be? It is a 124.49, and that's immediately bested by this man, Timothy Flomger, a 23.58. Landry picks up a 23.75. So already we're getting into the 1 minute 23s. We saw in EU earlier, it took a little bit of time to sort of get that ball rolling. But we're already coming out of the gate swinging. Renato Dornelis, that's a name that I can never, ever get enough of. 23.41 for the Brazilian. And I am surprised that a certain Canadian is not here tonight. I don't believe he marked attendance for it. Let me look through. Oh, because he's in red split. That's why. Oh goodness, did he at least mark it? Okay, he did. We'll see. We'll see Gulzar later tonight. Definitely a driver that I have given more than enough praise to. I guarantee you he's going to watch right now and hear that and be like, he's already talking about me. I'm not even on track. But right now it's Dornelis on top, ahead of Flamier, Landry, Lovering, Carpenter, your top 5. Portis within a second, excuse me, within a second of pole sitter. And then from there we start going into these, or anybody beyond that 1 second margin. Frederick Boisvert for Average Joe's Racing. Got some fans in chat, of course. Hasn't set a qualifying lap just yet, but thankfully he is getting towards the end of this flying lap, so we'll see where he ends up. Currently could be a little ways down. He's sort of fighting this McLaren out of the final corner. And if you notice something, ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be some rain here rather soon. I know it says 10 minutes, but it's going to be a little less than that, so drivers really have to get some of these laps in, because once the rain comes, they're never going to be faster. Maybe a little bit as the track starts to moisturize itself a little bit, but after that, good luck to getting any extra time out of your car. Boisvert up into P8, though. Very solid first run, 24.19. And Dornelis has put in a 22.99. It's barely enough, but it counts. The Brazilian has done his homework and has been hard at work behind the wheel. He is almost half a second clear of Portis. If someone's going to deny Portis another race victory, it's going to be this man, because he's also going to be looking for his second victory here in the North American Blue Split Sprint Series. Not on an improvement right now, but Portis is on an improvement. 23.13. Now less than 2/10 that gap. He's still got some work to do. Ike Raulu on a very solid improvement. A little over a second right now as he comes up to the timing line, and across he goes, and it will not count, it looks like. He has gone wide at some corner, so he is going to have to get right back around. He does not want to waste any more time. Lewis Campbell, new driver here in North America, does decide that he wants P14 with that 25.17. Raulu does not take advantage and unfortunately falls back. Jesse Toribio, winner from last week's amateur, at least in race number 1, and then a P2, decides to pick up P14. You see Frizza there, top-rated Pro-Am driver, and a very awkward sandwich between some amateurs. So he is definitely going to want to improve. Nothing wrong with being an amateur class driver, of course. We were all there. I was there for a long time. And then in the last 2 races of my season, they're like, hey, you're going to Pro-Am. I was like, thanks, I was in the fight for the amateur championship, but okay. I had fun. Welcome, Valians. Asia Pacific was wet, dry, wet. Tricky conditions. Ooh. Well, we had a dry race for EU. There's rain that's going to be coming in very shortly. We might have a little bit more time. We have about 3 minutes or so until that rain decides to come down. So maybe we'll see it. Keogh from 13th up to 7th. He's going to be very pleased with that. 23.81. Renato Dornelis doesn't improve, pulls off, maybe going to make a quick adjustment. We do see drivers coming out of the pits, so yeah, these are the setup adjustments, trying to find a little bit more time in these cars. And again, this is before the rain comes down. Those clouds are looking a little threatening. So precipitation would be a nice change of pace. Fabio Pitol, unfortunately, staying in P18 even with the improvement. He's got to find a little over 4/10 if he wants to just move Campbell aside. Baxter up to P17. Very nice looking livery. It looks like a certain livery we may have seen in real life. Maybe you're trying to avoid some copyright. But very nice color scheme. Nice simple design. We always appreciate that. So a lot of drivers right now are starting an out lap. Oh, there's no rain. Or maybe the rain is just in the weird in-between. But if it's not raining, then for those drivers, that's very good news, because that means the track is going to stay at this optimum. And if you're looking to increase those lap times, anything less than optimum is, well, not optimum. But Fabio Pitol is on an improvement, but right now it might not be enough. He's really got to push it in these final set of corners. Austin Carpenter up into P4 for him. That 23:47, very strong time. And we look back to Fabio Pitol as he goes into the final corner. Where is he going to spit himself out? That is the question. He's got the 4/10. Does he overtake? Yes, he does. Just squeaks by Campbell for P18. He's got another few laps to play with. As we just look at these split times, Cameron Sansano running it out wide there. I think he may have just invalidated his lap, as he was about 2/10 up, and now he's about 2/10 back. So that is going to be an unfortunate turn of events, but still 5 minutes to go here in qualifying. And we'll see who can move around. There's not a lot of improvement at the moment, although Flomger on a bit of a charge here. Could be using the cars in front as a bit of a slipstream. Just up ahead is the 999 of Clifford, who does go out wide. I don't know if he's bailing out of the lap or what the case may be, but he's not going to mind at all. He's parked up behind Landry, so the slipstream may be coming into effect here, as he has gained a couple of tenths. Oh, he gets a little loose out of the corner. That's going to hurt him, but the slipstream's going to keep him in range. And he goes on to pole at 22:78, and the rain just starts coming down. Oh. What? That could not have come at a better time. A 22:78 beats Dornelis by 2/10 in this rain. Nope, that's it. That's qualifying. That is going to be it for quali. Nobody's going to be able to improve. The track has gone from optimum down to green, and it's only going to get worse from there. That was beautiful timing there from Flomger. Using the slipstream of Landry, he got a little squirrely out of the final corner, but he gathered it up. And then just with that hole punched in the air, was able to just sail on by. I wish I could show you guys the broadcast controller, because nobody's improving. You know, there are deltas of, like, 18 plus seconds, but that's just because they were sitting in the pits. Nobody's improving. The closest we see is Frizza, and he's only 1.3 off. He was 0.9, but just dropped a ton of time. Flomger, he's chilling. Renato Dornelis, he's out there, I guess, getting some wet weather practice. You see the track is greasy, so that's what happens with this rain. It just comes in and washes all that rubber away. And there is not going to be a faster lap from here on out. At this point, you just want to maybe practice your wet weather driving, because you see 10 minutes out, it's going to stop raining. But it's not going to matter because it's already over. There are two drivers who are out on track right now, Raducanu and Dornelis. Everybody has parked up. No one's going to even attempt to put another lap in, except these two, and that's mainly, I would assume, just for practice. Oh, Thomas Dagg's gone out as well. And probably one of the neatest looking liveries. I feel like if you put the Aston Martin in Mario Kart, that's exactly what it would be like. That is the exact livery you could get to put on it by default. Not just unlock, default. So 3 drivers are out, but Timothy Flomger, what a statement there. I think by the time he reached the final corner and got the power down and was heading towards the finish line, he was almost 8/10 up. So to go from... what? I gotta do some math here. So I think he was sitting, what, P4, P5-ish? To immediately go up to pole position right as the rain comes down. I promise you, I've looked at the script. This wasn't in it. This was not in the script. I'm sure the writing room is going berserk right now, trying to figure out how this is going to affect the rest of the show. But things are going to get a little bit interesting, I think. So the final minute of qualifying, it's just, you're just running laps. You're not even doing anything. You're just getting some wet practice in. Track's damp. I don't know if drivers are running the, see, can we see? No, we're on dry tires and dry tires. So I assume this might be in case the track decides to go wet during the race. You can get some extra experience under your belt as that rain comes down. So you can survive maybe a few extra laps out there over your opponents and then go on the wet tires. But I don't know what the weather's going to look like for the race. We'll just have to wait and see. And we just got to wait for Dornelis and Dag to cross the start-finish line. Unless they've gone wide and invalidated the lap, then the game will automatically put us forward. So it's Flomger, Dornelis, Portis, your top 3, Landry, Carpenter in the top 5. So Dornelis... Oh, looks like we've had some invalid laps, and oh, isn't it nice and sunny? Nice and warm, of course. Not in real life, though. Well, I guess depending on where you're at. If you're here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's a little chilly. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope your summer hasn't burned you to a crisp. Hopefully I'm going to be down there in what would be summer for me. So it looks like two laps, or 2 mandatory pit stops, rather, instead of just the 1, as we saw in EU. So I think EU might have had a little bit of a change. Maybe a late something or other. So let's do one of my favorite things. Of course, you guys all know that I love doing this every single time. It is going to be the track walk, or is the grid walk, rather. So we take a nice look at all of these amazing liveries, all these beautiful cars, talented drivers on the grid. You can see the gradient that this start-finish line is at. This is the front straight, mind you. So it is Flomger as a perfectly timed pole position for him. Dornelis has to get relegated to position number 2. Portis and Landry on that second grid, looking to improve or even do better than they did last week. Carpenter, Lovering, Boisford, Dag, Keogh, and Clifford in the top 10. Very familiar faces that we do see in those top 10 positions. Fernandez just missing out. Same with Frizza. So they have some work to do here tonight. Raulu has done pretty well for himself to be P13. Sansano in 14th, No in 17th, Torvio Baxter 16, 17, Pitol. Very shocking qualifying from him. He's got a lot more work to do than his fellow competitors. Campbell, Raducanu rounding out, and of course the Simrigs safety car. Who's in the driver's seat? You never know. It's like a mascot at a sport event. You never know who's actually in the mascot costume, and if you do, well, you don't talk about it. Not that I've broken that rule or anything. But we are getting ready here for an hour at Brands Hatch for North American Blue Split. After this, we will be hopping over to the Red Split server, and we're going to see what they can do. Their attendance a little bit lower than Blue, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But we are getting ready for absolute pandemonium to start here. EU, very exciting all throughout. There's a bit of a lull in the action in the middle, and then right at the end, after all the pit stops got sorted and people started getting around those blue flags, well, that's when things started getting a little bit crazy. But we're within that final 30 seconds. You've got to hit drive or you're starting from the pit lane. We saw it with the safety car. 10 seconds. And, well, if you don't hit start, you're starting from the pit lane. Drivers off the jacks. And we should be racing here very shortly. All these cars lined up. There's the safety car pulling away. And everyone else will follow suit. Flomger, could he do what Bauer did and completely and unapologetically thrash the competition, or is he going to have to work for it a little bit harder? We're going to wait and see here in due time. And one final quick shout out before we get into the action to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 12 of the Sprint Series. We've already talked about them. Sim Racing Equipment, Australia, New Zealand, they got you covered. Outside of that, an email's all you're really going to need to get that little package sent your way. Patreon members, 5% off your in-store purchases. Sim Racing Equipment ain't cheap, so take advantage of that while you can. We're back out on track. So we look from the back of the safety car. BMW is the chosen chariot for tonight's or for this season's festivities. But Flomger making quite the move there right at the end to snag pole position away from Dornelis. Just like that, the rain came down and wiped all that progress away. Anybody who was out had to have been on an improvement, or else it wasn't going to matter. So Portis, who won a race last week, starting down in P3. Dornelis as well winning a race is in P2, so some very tough competition. Flomger still looking for a win. He got P2 in the second race last week, or the week before, at Paul Ricard. So that's about as close as he's gotten to the top step, but of course he wants to go for it all. For the Pro-Ams, Tesaro has taken home bragging rights for the Pro-Am. Unfortunately not here tonight. Frizza and Raulu. Frizza getting third in that first race, second in the second race. And the amateurs, Toribio and No and Campbell are here. We didn't have Campbell last week, but, well, we have what we have. 20 drivers on the grid. Flomger on pole, Dornelis, Portis, Landry, Carpenter, top 5, Lovering, Boisvert, Tag, Keogh, Clifford, rounding out the top 10, and it's green, 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 and it's going to be a great getaway there from Flomger as Dornelis seems to trip over himself. Portis already looking down the inside. There's a touch there. As Landry spins, he somehow saves it. The touch from Lovering doesn't put him around entirely, and already we have some action almost into the back there. Dag is lucky to stand on the brakes to keep himself from going into the back of a fellow competitor. The inside line belongs to Lovering, so he is going to take position number 6 around the outside. Keogh on Clifford. Clifford is going to have to back out of this one. Can't compete at the moment, but he's not done yet. He's going to fire it down the inside there. As we look out the back here, Boisvert giving us a very good seat to what is happening here already. I don't know who's going to have it into the next corner. It may be that Keogh gets it. Clifford just having to back out. Dornelis there, still in second. Flomger darts away. Kenneth Portis as well, and Michael Landry actually keeping up. And then Carpenter has lost out horrendously to the start, and he's got his own little pack to worry about just behind Lovering, Dag, Boisvert, Clifford, Keogh, and I think even Fernandez in some case. Yeah, he's there too. Same with Sansano even. I think I just saw the BMW, or not the BMW, the Audi there. But first lap, it's Flomger leading from Dornelis, Portis, Landry, Carpenter right now top 5, but feeling the heat as Lovering with the slipstream can pull in a bit closer. That Porsche not too hot in a straight line. The BMW maybe a little bit better, but with the slipstream it's going to be looking dicey. And there's Michael Landry, who looks for, or sorry, not Michael Landry. It's Flomger. Flomger's lost some time somewhere. I'm not quite certain what happened, but he's lost the position. Dornelis back in the lead. It's too early to call, of course, but Flomger does not want to let this opportunity slip away. He's already trying to build that gap up to Portis, and it might not be working out all too well. There's only so much speed this little Porsche can muster up. But with Dornelis rather ahead, we can see everybody filing through the turn here at the top of the hill, up and around Cameron Sansano. P12 for him right now. Still some good work so far. Your first 12 drivers all pro class. Pitola's done very well to actually recover up into P15. So he's got a couple more drivers to get through if he wants to be within his own class of all pro drivers. Already a lead change. Dornelis picking up fastest lap. 24:18 is the benchmark. Will we see the 23? As the Brazilian pulls away a lot more. Flomger struggling to keep pace right now. Able to maintain the gap down to Portis. Landry starting to get a little racy here. Obviously different cars, different break points, but it appears as though no matter what the outcome, roughly the same. As these gaps maintain. A lot later on the brakes there for Landry, trying to catch up. And out of the corner, that Honda just takes off. One of the strongest cars in the game. Jonathan Clifford now with a familiar colored Mercedes behind. Not the same driver, though, in that German-manufactured machine. But it doesn't matter. It's still this same Brazilian threat that we see up front. Clifford within that top 10, though. He's going to look to keep that ball moving as he does open up that gap to Fernandez. For now, off the track, up ahead. That was Skylar Lovrink, who got a little bent out of shape and does give up a position to Dag, and now finds himself in a very terrifying position. As you see Carpenter just exiting screen there. Behind is Boisvert and Keogh. Clifford just a little bit back, lurking in the shadows, though. Frederick Boisvert already starting to lose some time. And Keogh just holding station. He's not going to go for anything. There's still 55 minutes to go. Still plenty of time. We have 2 pit stops, mind you. So that is going to shake things up. Let's hop back. Chris Frizza, the leading Pro-Am. Oh, Raulu. What has happened there? He's all the way down in last. Apparently the new Ricky Bobby. I don't know if that's really the title you want. I think you want to be more like the next Dale Earnhardt or Michael Schumacher. Just name a few. I don't know. Maybe somebody in IndyCar. I'm trying to think. I have like 18 IndyCar names. I'm blanking on all of them. Either way, right now, Skylar Lovering has built a bit of a gap. It's good. It's good, but it's not really good enough. Keogh losing some time, though, through Sheen. And that's sort of the thing with Sheen is, like I said earlier, it's all about feel. And you have to be fully focused at that corner. Even the slightest break in concentration is going to have a disastrous effect. Thankfully, Keogh able to do a little bit of, as I call it, iguanaing. You can have one eye on the road and one eye on something else. He's a master of that. Dornelis has just pulled away, though. He got around Flomger, and that's it. Could we see Dornelis picking up win number 2 here at Brands Hatch? Who knows? 53 and a bit to go. And still 2 pit stops. For anyone new, that little orange box with the white number, that is how many mandatory pit stops the drivers have to serve within the pit window. The pit window is, for us, opens 5 minutes after the race commences. So at 55 minutes, that pit window opens up, and you have to get those 2 stops cleared within that time limit, or else you will cop a penalty. We haven't seen it happen. Drivers are very, very good at making sure that they are getting all their pit stops out of the way. Oh, whoa, Keogh. Keogh's losing it. Keogh gets hit, and that picks up Clifford as well. What in the world happened there? Let's roll this one back and see if we can find out what happened. So Clifford's in front right now. And there's Keogh. So he lets him through. Oh, he just makes contact. And then Fernandez just T-bones him, is able to carry on. So, bit of a racing incident if I had to really put something onto it. But Clifford, oh, look at that. 15th, 14th for Keogh. That has been a terrible, terrible way to get this race going. But 52 and a half to play. So this is where the strategies start to change. Whatever they had in the playbook prior to the green flag is not going to matter. And that is one thing that you have to be able to do when you're in the Sprint Series, when you're in these organized leagues, you have to be able to switch up your strategy at a moment's notice. And that is exactly what those two drivers will have to do here this evening. Let's give some appreciation here to those a little further back as Raducanu just lets Raulu through. He sees the Pro-Am and thinks better of trying to do battle, thinking about the long term, thinking about maybe picking up some extra positions later on in the race through pit stops, as Raulu sort of struggling right now to make these apexes. Raducanu as well. So we'll see what happens here. Austin Baxter right now for P17 with Toribio hot on his trail as he runs it out wide. Was able to keep more speed, it looks like. I don't think this Porsche is designed for rallying, but he is definitely making it work. Toribio has a much better exit, goes to the inside. Could this be a move down into turn number 1? No, it is not. Backing out. The smart move, but that does scare Baxter off his line. And Toribio just sails on by, says, thank you very much. What a lovely line you had there, but mine's better. Up into P17 for the number 55 McLaren. Gonna keep an eye on this. Kenneth Portis, P3 at the moment, has lost quite a chunk of time to Flomger. Landry is just behind, breathing down his neck. Flomger's last lap, 23:18. Portis, 23:68. Oh no, those are best laps. 23:18 for Flomger, 23:77 for Portis, 23:99 for Landry. So, big chunks of time there. And Flomger was actually 0.2 quicker than Dornelis on the last lap. So Dornelis has a just put in a 23:38. 23:72 for Flomger, 23:77 for Portis, 23:62 for Landry. Landry is on a mission to grab a podium. Denied last time out. Will not let this opportunity slip away. But carries on. Portis, he's try as he might, he just can't close the gap. Flomger 3.457 seconds to Dornelis, but he's trying to take out chunks of time where he can. A little bit of chiseling, a little bit of marble sculpting, if you will, to try and bridge the gap. But Dornelis, once he's away, he's away. Fastest lap to the Brazilian, of course, 23:04 is the time to beat. The next closest is Flomger, nonetheless, 23:18. So it's not quite qualifying. He doesn't have the slipstream he can benefit from. But when the clouds are rolling in, could we see some precipitation? It just got a little bit darker. That nice orangey yellow hue of a nice midday sun replaced with a bit of a dreary blue. And this is really what we're going to be focusing on right now, this battle for P3. Last lap for Dornelis at 23:21, 23:87 for Flomger. So the number 19 Porsche already having some issues catching up. Portis 23:76, Landry at 23:80. So it seems like even with these minute gaps, Landry is still able to maintain a healthy gap to the car ahead. And will definitely try everything he can to really just close things up. It's a tall order, especially against Portis of all people. Last season, an absolute monster on the track. Of course, we only had one split, and he had to compete with Gulzar. But now that Gulzar is out of the picture in a different time altogether, he has a nice little island of comfort to work with. But it doesn't look like he's really putting it to good use right now. Even with that slipstream, you see Landry in the slipstream, but still not catching up. Really riding these curbs, trying to Get the power down as early as he can. Dornelis, 23.55, and then Flamger at 23.87. Kenneth Portis dropped to 24.00, and then a 23.89 for Landry. So this is something we see a lot of, just sort of this yo-yo back and forth, lap after lap after lap. And we're seeing it on display right now. And that's what keeps things interesting, because you may have a really good lap, and that feeds into your ego a little bit. You think, oh, I had a really good lap. Now I'm going to get an even better lap, but then you maybe overestimate a brake marker or something to that effect. Get on the power too early, and, well, now that time is lost, and you think, wow, I'm a terrible driver, and you reel yourself back in. At that point, you got to find that nice middle ground. But again, it's just sometimes you get a faster lap and you get a little ambitious. As we see Flamger getting a little ambitious there. And you just start damaging your own race. But this is not even close to being done, of course. Still 46 to go. Now with the two-stopper, drivers, I guess now it would be a pretty decent time to explain it. With the mandatory pit stops, drivers have to, at the very least, put on a new set of tires. And it's always important to make sure you're actually putting on a new set and not an old set that you used in qualifying. If you've ever wondered how do I know if my tire sets are new or old, when you pull up your MFD and you're looking to go through your pit stop settings to figure out how much fuel you want and your new tires, do you want some body work fixed up. With the tire set, you're going to see a white dot next to it. If you see that, that means it's a new set. If you don't see it, that means you've already used it. So you got to make sure there's a white dot there. We have had instances in seasons past where drivers have not put on new tires, and they have to do the pit stop all over again, and that kills even more time. So, new sets of tires. I'm sure drivers saw how many pit stops they had to do and adjusted their fuel loads. Obviously, as the car burns more fuel, the car gets faster, it gets lighter. So you can underfuel and then go into the pits, fuel it up again. It's underfueled, and then go back in, do it one more time, and get to the end of the race. And it should be noted that the refueling and tire change process happens at the exact same time. So you're not sitting there waiting for tires to go on, and then you have to wait for the fuel to go on. It all happens at most, actually standard 30 seconds, 4 tires and fuel, or just 4 tires. If you get, brake pads changed or damaged, fixed, whatever it may be, that is going to cost you some time. But that will be for these drivers to figure out. Right now, William No running in P12. Very good showing from the amateur class driver in the 7-Eleven Racing Porsche. Eat your crust. I don't know. Have you guys ever had 7-Eleven pizza? Is it good? I feel like I would. I feel like I might get in some sort of trouble if I did. And speaking of trouble, No is coming under attack from Keogh, who got a much better exit out of the turn. Although around the outside in the Aston Martin is going to be a bit of an ask. As they go door to door, they make contact and they both spin out. And somehow, both end up pointing in the right direction. William No stopping on the side. I don't know if that's intentional or just out of courtesy. He's getting away. Oh, he had to wait for drivers to get through. So the stewards will look at that. Sky Lovering into the pits now for that first pit stop. Jonathan Clifford picks up a few positions. No problem on his front. He's more than happy to do that. So here's Loverink into the wavy pit lane. I promise you it is not that bumpy. So, Loverink getting his first pit stop cleared rather early. So we're going to see what he does if he ends up deciding that he wants to maybe overfuel. So that way he just has to worry about tires. But why would you do that? You're going to fuel up anyways. So again, it is 30 seconds to get your pit stop cleared. And there should be a nice number 1 next to him. Pitol and Campbell have gone into the pit lane at some point prior to right now. So they're sitting down in the back. Skylar Lovering just getting out of pit lane now, so this will spin him way down the grid. But perhaps this is the undercut to end all undercuts. Lovering could be looking at a podium later on. Who knows? Timothy Flomger, early pit. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's got to really slow that one down. 50 kilometers is the speed you need. And it's not the cleanest, but it's, you know, as long as he's got 50 Ks on that speedometer, I think he's good to go. Last, oh, Frizza into the pits as well. I don't know if he marked up properly. We did see in EU Simon Bauer getting what I can only describe as the perfect pit entry, and actually defended himself from an undercut attempt by Vinogradov. Incredible stuff from both of those guys, right down to the end. So Dornell is still out on track. Has not been able to beat his fastest lap. Of course, he is on worn tires, so as you drive around more and more and more and more, that rubber comes off, you get less grip. And your times won't go faster, but they'll usually average out. So it's Dornelis, Portis, Landry, Carpenter, Dag, your top 5. Boisvert, Fernandez, Sansano, Clifford, Keogh in that top 10. Baxter into the pit lane here for his first mandatory stop. Frizza should be all set to leave. There he is. Yep, out of the pit lane he goes. Rejoins in 16th position. And Raducanu as well in the pit. So it looks like we will be seeing an early pit stop from a decent size, a decent third of the grid. After that, well, who knows? Wilson Fernandez, one of the front runners. Deciding now, he's got a little bit of front end damage on that Mercedes. Shouldn't affect the performance all too much, but could decide if he wants to fix it up. Cameron Sansano as well into the pit lane. Dornelis staying out on track. Oh, and into the pits, that's Jonathan Clifford. So these drivers might be looking at 20 or so minutes on the first set, and then maybe another 20 minutes on that second set, and then another 20 to round it out. So a nice clean 20-20-20. But that is sort of it for right now. So your top 9 have not gone into the pit lane. Let's see if Dornelis decides that he wants to come in. He's behind what is a back marker. No, he stays out. Kenneth Portis with Landry giving chase. As Portis goes into the pits, Landry mirrors that. You can see how much speed they try to carry into the pit lane. Carpenter, Dag, pass it up. Boisvert goes in for a fresh set. Keogh and No and Toribio are the only drivers who have not gotten their first pit stop out of the way. So we'll see if the Aston Martin goes in inside the line. No, does not. How about William No? Does he say yes or does he say no to that pit stop? Same with Toribio, just behind there. Let's see. Does the Porsche go in? No, he does not. Toribio does decide to get that first stop out of the way. And that leaves Dornelis, Carpenter, Dag, Keogh, and No. Your only drivers that have not served a pit stop. Raulu picks up a 30-second stop go. That is going to be for speeding in the pit lane, although that is going to get swapped over to, I believe, a 10 or 15-second penalty. That is what we do here in the OOR. Dornelis dives into the pit lane. So if Carpenter stays out, he'll be in the lead, but that'll just be all for naught. And behind him is Thomas Dag in a very cool-looking Aston Martin. Carpenter passes up the pit. Same with Dag. So Keogh and No have a chance to go into the pit lane. But this is the fun part about these pit stops and all these different strategies. You get fast drivers who end up in spots where they normally wouldn't be, having to get around traffic they normally don't have to worry about. that will shake things up. You can gain time, you can lose time. It's all possible. Keo. Time for a new set. Does no do the same? Or is that a no-go? Under the bridge. Through that final corner. He's slowing down. Yep, this is it. So, Carpenter, Dag, the only two drivers currently who have yet to do any pit stops. And now we join Frederick Boisvert and Wilson Fernandez here for the battle in P9. As it's a really good corner there for the Mercedes, but just has to get on the brakes. As Boisvert not really taking the sort of speed that was expecting. So for now, Boisvert carries on P7 at the moment. As Keo and No sit in the pit lane. Get that all sorted out. Raducanu's been in the pit for quite a while. Wilson Fernandez finding a line on the inside. Does Boisvert yield, or does he keep up the aggression? And he does. Almost getting his nose cut off there. So it's Fernandez ahead, and we do have a 10-second penalty going over to No for a collision on lap 12. We saw it earlier. So that is going to be hurtful, but this is the thing about penalties that I do think I would like to discuss, and that is, ooh, Raducanu just did both stops immediately. I don't know if that's the play, but sure did go off. Thomas Dag into the pit. So Austin Carpenter has yet to put a fresh set on. But anyways, the thing I want to talk about with these with the penalties when it comes to races with mandatory pit stops or just pit stops as an option is that if it is a mandatory stop race like we have right now, it's better to get that penalty before you've cleared yourself of mandatory pit stops rather than after. If it's after, then you have to start worrying about, well, how many positions am I going to lose at the end of the race? If you find yourself in no man's land, you may lose one, maybe two positions if it's that bad. But if you find yourself in a pack or you have a whole horde of cars behind you, you could be looking at 7, 8, 9 even. I think we've seen drivers lose as much as, I think we saw someone get 10 places removed at some point. I don't believe it was this season. It may have been last season. But if you get a penalty like you see two of our drivers have, when you go into the pit lane, that is going to get added on top of your pit stop. So like I said, it's a 30-second start to finish pit stop, tires, fuel. If you do damage or brake pads, it is going to be a little bit longer. But once your pit stop is cleared, you're going to have to sit there for an extra 10 seconds in this case as you serve your penalty. So that is less time for you to really be out there on track. So if you're going to get a penalty, you might as well cop it before you've got all your mandatory stops out of the way. It just makes life that much easier. Thomas Dag again passes up the pit lane. Really stretching these tires out. Maybe a strategy that I don't quite know about. But the Alpha Sim Sport driver right now is running up in first position. But how far down is he going to fall? That's sort of the big question. Once he goes in, Dornelis will be handed the lead back as there's about a 40-second gap, a little under. So even if Carpenter gets the perfect entry and the perfect pit stop, and there he is into the pit lane. So even that is going to put the lead back into this man in his hands. And you can see the gap that he's got right now to Flamger. It's, well, it's a couple zip codes, I think. You'd probably have to put some extra postage if you wanted to go from his rear wing to the front bumper of Flamger. So we'll see where Carpenter gets spit out. In the meantime, this is where we're going to kind of keep things parked up. Boisvert, Lovering, and Dag battling right now for what is going to be P5. Unless Carpenter can get out ahead of them. But I think for right now, unless maybe a few positions getting moved up, Carpenter will just get tossed around and thrown back. As he's out of the pits right now, you actually can see some of these cars going past. Where does Carpenter... He actually comes out ahead of this trio. That's a very good thing. That's a very good pit stop for him. So maintains that 5th position. And there he is, just exiting the shot there. Skylar Loverink looking for a window. But unfortunately, Dag might be running Mac. So he's got to find a different operating system to play with. But you can see the gap. It's only about 2/10 right now, compared to the half-second that Loverink has over Boisvert. As Dag misses the break point, Loverink tries to dive it, but it isn't going to happen. The door closes right up. And Boisvert now with a chance here, with some speed in the slipstream down the hill. Glances on the right side, thinks better. Just slots right back into place. And knows that he's going to get them at some point as we head over to Sheen Corner. Up and through the blind right. These guys make it look so easy. And there's Wilson Fernandez, I think, getting into the mix a little bit. As we have this 4-way battle starting to brew. Thomas, Dag, really feeling the heat right now. You can't really use a red shell too well if you're in front. Unfortunately, there's no red shells in ACC, so that's all down to driving for him if he wants to keep his lead. You can see behind how much these drivers are really struggling to read each other right now. There's a bit of a break as Wilson Fernandez finds a little bit of real estate on the inside. Does he get the move done? Yes, he does. Just cuts across. And Boisvert does have to back out. I think for a moment he looked down the inside, but realized there was no daylight he could have used to find his way out of the tunnel. So Boisvert losing out. Loverink and Dag staying put, but Fernandez gets the job done. And keeps on moving on. Check out Cameron Sansano right now. With Jonathan Clifford in tow, the 565 there of Baxter having to give way with those blue flags. It's 7/10. It's actually grown a little bit. It was a little bit less than half a second, but it seems as though the Audi has found a little bit of pace somewhere. So we turn our attention back here for 6th place and 8th place. Dag and Loverink battling it out here. Fernandez and Boisvert as well. Fernandez, of course, just getting around Boisvert just about a lap ago. These two, though, have been holding where they have been at. Oh, God. Ooh, hold on. Yeah, I did not want to sneeze on the mic. You're welcome. Anyways. I know it's, Dag, though, getting the best of Loverink right now. Last lap, a 24.167 and then a 24.165 for Loverink. 2 thousandths between them. If that isn't showcasing just how good these two are and just how consistent and closely skilled they are, I don't know what will. What I do know is Renato Dornelis has just picked up the new fastest lap, has improved upon it with a 23.012. Do we see the 22? That's going to be the big question right now. Loverink, with a very good exit, was right on the bumper, but just had to lift off to keep the contact from happening. And look at that, just like that. Despite that gain, Dag has fallen back. There is a break in the clouds, so we're going to get some of that nice warmer color into the air. Fernandez has built himself a little bit of a buffer now to Boisvert, who's just been slowly but surely slipping back. Let's see, Dag 24.55, Loverink 24.58, Fernandez a 24.25, so he is chasing down the 2 ahead. Boisvert 24.62, has lost out tremendously on this. But there's still just under half an hour to go. So we should be seeing some of these pit stops, finally, these last pit stops being served within the next, I'd say, 7, 8, 9 minutes, maybe even 10, depending on the driver. We're going to leave these guys alone. Sansano has just lost a position to Clifford. I was just about to click on it. Clifford getting the move done. We'll see very, very quickly what happens. So this is through Druids. You can see Sansano just runs it far too wide. Clifford getting a better drive and just swoops around the outside of the Audi and gets it done. Picks up that position. That is P12 for the Lamborghini driver. Uh-oh, Loverink losing some focus here. Has given Dag a chance to run away. There is a back marker just ahead. I believe that's Campbell in the McLaren giving way. Oh, no, that might be Raducanu actually giving way. Yeah, it is. So, my apologies. Wrong McLaren. We have one McLaren in the top 10. That is Boisvert, who you just see right there in that sky blue livery. But outside of that, the two others, 16th, 17th, and then Raducanu, unfortunately, in last position there. The Honda of Raulu just having to let everybody through, just sort of parks it on the inside, gets on the brakes, and decides that he does not want to be part of the problem. Pitol into the pit lane for that last mandatory stop. Going to be looking to do the last 25 or so minutes on that last set of rubber. Maybe a splash of fuel and getting back out there. So he'll be the second driver to have that green bar. Raducanu with that double pit stop almost immediately. I don't know what the strategy might be, but I get paid to talk into a mic, not to strategize. And that's what I am going to stick with. Although Austin Carpenter, despite having a comfortable gap, has slowly become part of this action. His last lap was a 25.17 and Dags was a 24.58. This is not what you want if you're Carpenter. You do not want to get dragged into someone else's battle. You want to be on your own thing, doing your own race. And a 24.59 compared to a 24.47 and a 24.49 from Dag and Loverink. Fernandez a 24.62. That might have been him having to be on the brakes a little bit longer. And now this party of four has become a party of five. It's 5 nights at Brands Hatch, but it's going to be all experienced in the next 24.5 minutes, as we do see Campbell there. Going to be getting some blue flags. We'll have to let these guys through. Decent gap, though, so it doesn't look like the blue flag notification has come through just yet, but definitely seeing it with that rear view. You can tell that there is a mob of cars, a nice little group of 5. There's the blue flag. He knows he has to get out of the way at some point. It's just a matter of picking the best time. Up through Sheen, probably shouldn't do it, but after that, you can absolutely go for it. The penultimate corner, the final one, most likely onto the front straight. And we'll actually ride here. Oh, sorry, not Raducanu. There it is. Yeah, there's Campbell, letting everybody through. He's gonna hold up Fernandez and Boisvert because he's going into the pit lane. I don't know how well that's going to go over. Fernandez, for a second, it looked like the broadcast controller assumed he was going into the pit. So a little bit of silent miscommunication there. I don't know if you guys heard that. My headset made the weirdest sound. I don't know what it was, and I'm kind of scared. But anyways. So Carpenter and Dag have lost some time to one another, and even down to Loverink. Whoa, hold on. Loverink has gotten the better of Boisvert and Fernandez. What in the world happened there? Fernandez. Oh, it must have been Campbell, because you saw Fernandez having to get a little bit awkward there, getting around, and that opened up an opportunity for Boisvert to sort of just Houdini his way in. So Fernandez, all that work, he's got to do it all over again. Boisvert there, looking down the inside of the BMW. Can't quite find it just yet. He is going to look for another shot. It isn't going to present itself. And we carry on. Boisvert with a bit of a slipstream, though, could gain some time here as we head into the next corner. That bump unsettling the car a little bit. And there, just up ahead, you do see Carpenter in that hot pink Porsche. Dag behind. Boisvert Can't find a way around. Fernandez into the pits. This might be the undercut on to Boisvert and even Loverink. Try to grab them as they go through, hoping that they get caught up in some back marker shenanigans, which will buy him some more time. Let's keep an eye on that, of course, to see what happens if it works as well as he thinks it does. Frizza is into the pit lane. Baxter into the pit lane as well. Boisvert keeping Loverink honest to see if he can find something. And we'll see where Fernandez comes out. Because depending on whether or not he comes out ahead or behind is going to be very indicative of how well this pit stop is actually going to play a key part in his campaign. So Fernandez has cleared all of his pit stops. Baxter is going to be clearing his, and we should be seeing in the next couple of minutes or so the rest of these drivers getting themselves into the pit lane, into a new set of car shoes, if you will. Getting back out there. No and Raulu with those penalties will have to serve them at their pit stop. So Dag, Loverink, and Boisvert have not gone in. Dag's struggling a little bit. Yeah, 24.67. Has not had the best lap compared to Loverink's 24.09. Boisvert at 23.07. Or 24.37, excuse me. So slowly gaining on the 177, but still not close enough for a move just yet. Drive through for Baxter. That is going to be for track limits. He does have 3 laps to serve that. And at this point, you might as well just do it now. Get it out of the way and then get back out there. Raulu into the pit lane. So that'll clear his penalty. And then it's just no. Flomger into the pits. Good, smart choice. Dornelis stays out a little longer. Let's look back here. What happens with these 3? Do they go in? No, they don't. Not yet. That drive-through for Baxter getting cleared. So he's going to just get back out there and make sure nothing happens. And he picks up a penalty. He picks up 5 seconds. What is it for? It's 10 seconds. I'm not even certain. It doesn't tell us. So it must have happened in the pit. Raulu, he was given a warning. No penalty given, but still a little bit of a hey, watch what you're doing from the stewards. And that is the one thing that we really do here with the OOR is we have live stewarding. So when you see this contact happen between drivers, there isn't a penalty right away. Our stewarding team, they really look at all of the angles and make sure they have 100% certainty of who is at fault or if it's just a racing incident. So again, we saw it last week with Paul Ricard. We see it here. We're going to probably see it again this season. There's no way we don't. Where even if a penalty happens, we'll probably not see a punishment dished out until later on in the race. Obviously towards the end it's a little bit more difficult, but our shooting team always on top of things. Sansano goes into the pit lane to finally get all those pit stops cleared out, and there is Loverink and Boisvert. Boisvert really using the pit lane to try to catch up, so these two are fighting with each other. So we got to look to Fernandez to see how much he can gain. He should be able to maybe pick up Boisvert. Oh, but they're already stopped. There's no way. The undercut doesn't work. I don't think it's going to work at all because Fernandez is still about 40 seconds out. Actually, no, this may have worked. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be dangerously close, depending on where he is. So if we look at the track map, you can see he's just coming up to the penultimate corner. This might actually have worked. This could possibly work for Fernandez, but he's really got to push right now. Boisvert is out just barely ahead of Loverink. So Boisvert, with that closer pit box, will pull away and gain the position. There's Fernandez on the right side of screen, and the undercut has worked perfectly for the Brazilian. He comes out ahead of these two, granted on a bit more rubber. Loverig fires it down the inside, very late on the brakes, outbrakes himself. Boisvert having to take evasive action, but Loverig, despite getting out of the pit box a little bit later, gets the position right back. And Boisvert's got to do it all over again, but Fernandez, very, very good job calculating that pit stop and gets out ahead of those two behind. Played the long game. There's Portis in the pits for his last pit stop. Clifford coming in as well. But yeah, I thought maybe for a second Fernandez miscalculated, but apparently he's got one of those newfangled fancy graphing calculators. I have one. It doesn't work. The battery's dead and I don't know where the charger's at. I don't use it, but you know. Actually, I'll have to. Anyways, we carry on. So Baxter with 10 seconds added on. That's going to hurt. That might be for a pit lane infringement. Not quite certain. Although William No in the pit lane now, as well as Clifford and Dornelis. So this is going to put No with 10 seconds added on. And I just got the weirdest deja vu. This has happened before. So William No, that 10 seconds added on. He'll get that sorted out. And then that just leaves Toribio, Carpenter, Dag, and Keogh, the only drivers who have yet to serve that last pit stop, as there is 10 minutes to go here in this race. Austin Carpenter overtakes the lead, albeit temporarily. Same with Dag getting an extra position, and I believe Ben Keogh, there he is in the pits. He's not going to get out ahead of Dornelis or Landry as he comes to almost a complete stop there. I mean, if you're below 50 kilometers, I don't think it's much of an issue, right? It works out in the end. There's the number 8 of, who is that? It's William No. Lost him for a second, and just up ahead, 7:10 of Landry out of the pits. Austin Carpenter, Thomas Dag, Ben Keogh's in the pit lane, and Jesse Toribio. So 3 drivers will have to get that fresh set of rubber on their cars before they can be cleared of all things they need. And then from there, it's just about winding down the clock. Austin Carpenter coming up here on Raducanu. Blue flags are out. Is just going to politely step aside. And we'll have to do it again as Thomas Dag makes his way through. So let's see if these two go in on lap 31. Carpenter sticks to the inside. Yep, he is going to be going into the pit lane. And does Dag follow him in? Yes, he does. So Dornelis, as we look back to him, will be given this first place back. So he is on track to win his second race this season here in Season 12 of the Simrigs Sprint Series. And then Flomger should pick up another spot. Same with Landry, Portis, and I don't know about Fernandez. He might be sitting there in P7 though. So we went from P10 to P7 after pit stops, so very good from him. Carpenter and Dag. Landry coming on through. We'll take those positions. Same with Portis. Fernandez might. That's the big question. You see Thomas Dag right there, center screen. Quite a ways up from Carpenter, but Carpenter just getting off the jacks now. Thomas Dag is probably desperate for those jacks to come down, and when do they? They don't. They do just now. There's Fernandez firing on through. Does he get around Carpenter? Yes, he does. Wilson Fernandez. Bravo to him. His strategies worked out beautifully. He undercuts Loverig and Boisvert, and then somehow that sets him up for Dag and Carpenter. Amazing stuff. 2 Brazilians in the top 5. Or sorry, top 6? No, top 5. My broadcast tool now updates. Thank you. So could this be a nice little pattern? Brazilian, American, Canadian, American, Brazilian. palindrome, correct? If my memory serves. And that top 5, Tori Bio, now going into the pit lane. So that'll be the last driver to serve those mandatory stops. Of course, the Simrigs safety car, it doesn't have to. It's perfect just the way it is. But I think for now, things will settle down. Thomas Dag does have Boisvert in tow. Where in the world? I believe that was Lovering just up ahead. So things really jar. At this point, just running out the clock. 11.5 minutes to go, and then we'll hop on over, pick up the North American Red Split. I believe we should be towards the end of pre-practice when we get over there, although I might be wrong. If I actually check the attendance sheet, I can see there's start time. So we'll actually get there, yeah, actually towards the tail end of quali. So we'll be able to get right back into the action. And we'll see if anybody could maybe top what this man did in qualifying. And there's the 22.90. Your fastest lap of the race, alien times. And we'll have to see if anybody can do better than, well, this man did in qualifying. Absolutely blasting Dornelis back. But it hasn't really mattered because he let off the start, had a lap or two under his belt, and then just faltered. And Dornelis, like a thief in the night, picked up first position, has not looked back. His rear view has been rather clear, except when he clears these back markers because it's filled with them. Oh, we've got a car off on the side. I'm not quite certain who that is. That is the 517 of Ron Raducanu. You can see those tire marks there on the curb. Looks like he maybe just got a little too eager on the grass and goes into the pit lane. Very unfortunate afternoon for him. So he may be looking towards Misano next week for that mini endurance race. Skylar Lovrink, at the moment, does have Carpenter ahead. Last lap here for the BMW, a 24.82 for Carpenter, 25.02. So 2/10 with a 0.8 gap. So 4 laps is what he's going to need to get around. But that is going to be possible. If he keeps this pace up, he should be able to get around in the next 4, maybe 5 laps, depending on how things play out. Just up ahead there is Fernandez, who has built a sizable lead to both of these drivers. Fernandez putting in oh, hold on. Wait, what? Did someone in the top 5 just leave? Was it Carpenter? No, Carpenter's there. Who am I missing? Dornelis, Portis, Landry, Fernandez, Carpenter. Lovely. I might be losing my marbles. No, someone left. Who left? I don't even know. I don't know. Someone just disconnected. So now Fernandez gets given a P4. Carpenter picks up P5, which means Lovrink is now fighting for P5 instead of P6. I'm not quite sure who that was. I think it was just a disconnect. I don't think it was someone deliberately leaving. But to whoever that was, who I don't remember, that is incredibly unfortunate. All that work down the drain, either for... Oh no, Flomger. Flomger, what happened? Oh, that's gonna hurt so much. He couldn't have been out of fuel, could he? I don't want to believe it. I'm gonna have to check that after the broadcast closes up. There's no way. It must have been a disconnect, though. Oh, that is one of the harsh realities of sim racing. These games can be very, very accurate to the real-life representations, but it's always those pesky connections that we got to worry about. Longer not too pleased with himself. Or not too pleased, rather, with his internet. He's been doing a phenomenal job here tonight, but you can see just what happens, so we'll see where he ends up. There's Raducanu, who's in the pits for some reason or another. But Lovrink, slowly but surely, that pink Porsche is getting a little bit bigger each lap. 24.08 for Carpenter. A 23.83. So again, it's that 2 tenths we talked about. A couple of tenths each lap, and Flomger, I just noticed, has left. Incredibly unfortunate for him. That is not how you want to end a race. You want to make it to the end, of course, but unfortunately that's just how things play out. Chris Frizza, let's hop back here. The battle for P10, Jonathan Clifford. I don't think there's been a race in a long time where that one Lamborghini driver has not been in the top 10. And right now he is making some ground here in this Huracan. I almost called it a Murcielago for some reason. But, yeah, no, Clifford, a very good job of keeping Frizza honest. A 26.76 for Frizza. That might have been because of lap traffic. A 24.31 for Clifford. So we'll actually see what the lap time looks like as we come over the timing line once more. And we'll see just how close these guys actually are in speed. See slightly different breakpoints as well. Almost caught Clifford off guard a little bit. So Frizza crosses the line. 24.91, 24.96 for Clifford. He had to get a little bit heavy on the brakes. Frizza sort of scaring himself. Clifford has room on the inside. Does he throw it down? Yes, he does. Later on the brakes, the move is done, and Jonathan Clifford up into the top 10. It's looking like an all-pro rated driver top 10. Frizza already losing ground as Clifford in the Charging Bull charges ahead. That horse can prance, but unfortunately it's no match for a massive hunk of meat just barreling towards you. And Jonathan Clifford, job well done on his little campaign. Austin Carpenter holding on for dear life to this P5. Back marker coming up. That is the 565 of Baxter, who will be letting these two through. Just sticks to the outside, has them go down the inside, that shorter line. Skylar Lovrink, a lot closer now. Does he look down the inside at turn 1 just for a moment? Sees some room to work with, doesn't bite. Into Druids. It's going to be a defensive line there for Carpenter as we head through this almost long, forever going on right-hander. Carpenter staying ahead though. Somehow, there's Fernandez up ahead, who has just been maintaining and maintaining. And because these two are battling so much, he's able to just open up his own little gap. He can make it work. So for right now, Carpenter gets a chance to settle. Not for long, though. Lovrink is not going to let this top 5 finish slip away so easily. Out the back there, you can see just how close Lovrink is. He's taking up that entire back windshield and pretty much the entirety of the rear view mirror, as well as Carpenter is just doing everything he can to keep the BMW at bay. There's still just under 3.5 to play right now. An excellent exit there for Lovrink. Brings him side by side into the final corner. Carpenter on the inside. He's got to make sure he gets the power down at the perfect time and doesn't give Lovrink any sort of slipstream, but it doesn't matter. Lovrink parking it up behind right now as he fires it around the outside into turn number 1. Down the hill they plunge. Is the move done? Lovrink loses the back end, keeps it stabilized, and Carpenter again gets away by the skin of his teeth. This is going to come down. This might be one of those last lap passes we see. It's going to have to be something massive here from the 52 if he wants that top 5 finish. It's so tantalizingly close, but it's still so far away. And another battle we have to keep an eye on right now. Thomas Dagg, Frederick Boisvert, the two Canadians have to find their way through a back-marked Porsche. And they do. And there it is, exiting just at the right. Carpenter and Loverink. We've lost another. Landry is gone. I don't know what happened to Landry. Drivers are dropping. Is it connections with the server? Is it personal things? We don't know. But right at the end, everything's getting shaken up. So Fernandez is on for a podium as long as the connection holds. And I think we have another lap to play. We do. We're going to have one more lap. The next time that Dornelis comes around, that's going to be it. That'll be the final lap. So for Austin Carpenter, I'm sure he wants to hear in a little bit of time that the leaders finished the race, but that's not going to happen quite yet. Thomas Dagg finding himself in pretty much the same spot that Carpenter is, just a few seconds back on the road. But it's, yeah, these gaps, both 0.4 to the driver behind. I wish I could. I wish I had what Mullick has, and I have two PCs set up, and I can run both, and I can show you both battles at the same time. But unfortunately, I don't, because that would be quite a lot of money. Looks like Flomgers had a disconnect. Yeah, he had a disconnect and not happy with the way Kunos does things, which is understandable. It's not perfect, but we're on final lap. Ladies and gentlemen, Dornelis has just been cruising USA, it feels like. In the Mercedes, 21 seconds is the gap to Portis. That is just a showing of how dominant this guy is. Austin Carpenter, Loverink, one more tour to try to get it done. Dagg has opened up a gap to Boisvert. It's a second. That might be enough. Into turn one. Loverink looking down the inside, brakes later, and does get it done. He collects the BMW beautifully and finds himself in position number 4. It's still a top 5, but it's all for bragging rights. He doesn't care. He doesn't care that it's only going to be a top 4. He wants that top 5. And he's going to get that if he can just hold it together long enough. But ladies and gentlemen, back up the field. He started P2, got around early, and Renato Dornelis, a name that is so common, on the podium, wins another round here. It's going to be the second win in a row here for the Brazilian at Brands Hatch. He's going to look to make it 3 next week at Misano. Kenneth Portis, what a race from him. Up into P2. We have drivers behind the leader getting their positions finalized. Loverink, that gap is just gone. There's nothing Carpenter can do. Wilson Fernandez, talk about the strategy from this guy. 2 Mercedes on the podium. He undercuts Loverink and Boisvert, and then somehow undercuts a couple of other drivers. Finishes P number 3. There's Loverink in the background. 4th. Carpenter is going to be 5th. Dagg picks up 6th. Holds off Boisvert long enough. Keogh in 8th position. Excellent job from him. And Jonathan Clifford, he was settled for P10. Will get P9 because of a disconnect. And Frizza will get 10th place for his trouble. He's going to be very happy about that. Cameron Sansano, and the number 99 Audi, makes it 11th. And then Pitol, no. Toribio, Campbell, Raulu, Baxter, 12th to 17th. And then it's just Raducanu, saving the best for last, of course, down in position 18. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here at Brands Hatch for North American Blue, right as this man crosses the finish line. And now we are going to take a look at the final results before we hop on over to North American Red. So, overall, it's Dornelis, Portis, and Fernandez, 2 Mercedes in that top 3. For the Pro-Ams, it's Frizza, Raulu, and Tesaro, who wasn't here, but still gets a Pro-Am participation point on the podium. In the amateur class, of course, it's No, Tiorbio, and Campbell. All of these drivers have yet to win a race in their class, of course. And then with the Pro-Ams, Frizza in his got a P3 and a P2 last week. So he'll go from 3 to 2 to 1. So he's going to try to keep that going. In the silver class, of course, Baxter, Raducanu, and the Simrigs safety car. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to hop servers here very, very quickly to North American Red. What a great race from Blue, and we're going to see if North American Red could do better. Unless the password changed, but I am fairly certain. Oh, I gotta remember which one it is. I think it's this one? No? Oh, God. Oh, wait, I think I know what it is. Hold on. If I can type properly. No? Oh, don't tell me they changed it. Don't tell me they changed it on me. That's not fair. Do I have my caps lock on? My mic was muted. Don't tell me it was muted for the whole end of the race. I am... Okay, so I don't remember the password. I am trying to remember the password. How many characters is this? $13. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And it should be that. Huh. That's strange. Okay, so... I'm trying... There's only like 2 passwords I remember. And neither of them work, which is a problem. I may have to do something I'm not planning on doing. And I may have to actually go in and see if they switched it. So I'm going to mute myself very quickly. I will be right back. Do I have the VR back screen set up? No, I don't. Hold on. Hold on. I am very sorry about this. I did not know this was going to happen. If I can just find this, and then I need this. There we go. Okay. Give me a second, folks. I may have a solution. I may not. We'll have to see. Again, I apologize for this. I did not think that I was going to be out of the server. I didn't know if they changed the password or not. They shouldn't have. I don't think there's any reason for us to do that unless there was something that changed prior to the last thing. Oh, that's not good. Okay. We have a couple of options we can play with to try and find whether or not we can get in. If we do get in, it is going to be after qualifying, or at least, or not after qualifying, after practice. But yeah, this is not what I was expecting. Again, hopefully we're going to get this sorted out very soon. Messaging the proper parties to try and get something going so we can get back into the action. I have to make sure I DM the right people. Oops, that's the wrong person. Okay, now I think we're a little too far down. But NA Blue doing some good fun racing. We saw it, of course, with EU earlier on in the day. Well, I guess while we're here, of course, quick shout out to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 12 of the Sprint Series. Talked about them before plenty of times. Melbourne-based sim racing supplier, Australia, New Zealand. You guys are covered 110%. Outside of that, send them an email, and they'll be more than happy to do some business with you. If you're an OR Patreon member, of course, you are going to be getting 5% off your order, so please, please, please take advantage of that. Sim racing equipment is not cheap. But for right now, we continue our struggles. Log into the server with a regular password and try to put the admin password in the chat box once loaded in. I have no idea what the server password is. I have none. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know. It's been a while. Let's see. It might be... Oh, God. It's going to have to be in one of the announcement channels, isn't it? Yeah, it is. All right, let's see. Okay, now we're going a little too far back. Actually, no, we're not. Okay, this... We could see it. We could find it. Unless they didn't share it. But they... I think they did. No, they didn't. Interesting. No. Well, this is a bit of an issue. No, it's a TeamSpeak server. I don't need that. Yeah, I do not know. Okay, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna try something else. Oh, hold on. All right, we have a line of communication right now. We could be getting in here very shortly, so just hang with me, folks. We're trying to get in. Maybe let's try like all caps. Alright, I am back. We do have open line of communication, which is good. So, Glenn Germain should be here soon. And we'll be getting the action back up and running again. I apologize for this. Password got changed around. The password for the blue split has not changed. And I got in there fine. I'm always in the server before I actually start my stream, of course. But yeah, so hopefully in the next couple of minutes, we'll be back up and running, probably for the tail end of Quali, which will be unfortunate, so we'll have a lot of information to rifle through before we actually get a move on. But ladies and gentlemen, how's everybody's Thursday been? It is almost Friday, almost gotten through another week. I gotta say, proud of all of us, good job. I know it's been tough, I know it's harder some days to actually get through the week, but hey, y'all are doing it, you're making it through. That's what matters, and hopefully today has been a good day for you. It's been pretty solid, I will say, on my end. Good races in EU, some solid racing here in North America, and hopefully hopping back in and, you know, getting into the server soon enough so we can watch some more OOR action. I can't remember the last time. I don't think this ever happened before. This is a whole new experience for me. Because we don't really change the passwords. We don't really... Unless there's something like a, you know, a bad apple leaking the passwords. At that point, we change it. But the spectator passwords, I don't think ever change. I think they changed... I want to say Season 9 or 10. And they've been the same. So unless they change something here on this server, I don't know. Okay, so we should be... Glenn's typing right now, so we'll hopefully be getting back in. But while we wait, actually, let's talk about... Alright. Oh, they changed the spelling of it? They changed the spelling of it? Oh my god, you're kidding. If this works. Alright, we're in. Oh, that's great. Oh, alright, we're in. We are in. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're here at Brands Hatch towards free practice. Ooh, looks like free practice has been a little bit weird. I think we're early. No, we're on time. We should be on time. Because, well, Quali was supposed to happen 5 minutes ago, but I guess they heard we were having some troubles here in the booth, so thank you to them for that one. Well, let's talk about Red Split now that we're here, of course. We don't have to wait. So, of course, last week they had that Super Sprint at Power card. So in the first round, it was Hamza Gulzar. Take a look at this beautiful looking Honda, driven by a beautiful Canadian man. We love him. Had him on in the booth last season after he secured the victory, of course. And he's going to look to do the same. He finished first overall and then third overall in that second round. And then for the Pro-Ams, it was Sanchez, who is here as well, the number 21 McLaren. He was pushed off of the top 10. Or top 3, rather. Checking my messages. Kenneth, can I tell you the password? I don't know. Can I? Are you allowed to have the password? I feel like when you actually... I can't. Yeah, I think you do some stuff like that. Can I spell? I think. Yeah, I saw the Portis. Check my messages, Colin. I did not get one from you. I got one from... But I am in. Oh, wait. You want the password. I'm an idiot. So, anywho. Yeah, so for race 2, it was Kogan who actually picked up the #1 spot, and then Briscoe and Kaiser for second and third. And actually with race 1, Page and Weldon, who I believe are teammates, 2 and 3. And then for the amateur class, it was Lanham, Wheeler, and Wicks for your top 3. And then race 2, Lanham, Platt, and Wicks. So Wheeler getting relegated out. Yep, I DM Portis so he knows. But we are here. And then for the silvers, of course, Parkinson, Conway, and then Conway, Parkinson. So a little bit of a flip-flop from them. Both are here tonight. Rasco and Thompson with the exact same time. Obviously not indicative of true pace, as these cars are just out on the first few laps. But we're here. We made it. It's a good meme. Oh my goodness. I don't know if Portis had a hand in doing that or if it was somebody else. But now I should be good from here on out. And who is that in the number 49? That is Marquez. That is a beautiful looking BMW. I like that. And of course, Kevin Parody redeems himself from last season with a very, very sleek looking McLaren livery. So hopefully we get into quali here in just a bit. Looks like most of these drivers are sitting in the pit lane right now waiting for the server to turn over. Oh, they might be waiting for me. Hold on, I may have to dive. I may have to dive back into the room. Oh, nope, they heard me. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this qualification underway here at Brands Hatch for North America Red. So let's see who's out on track first. It is Thomas Pierce. So we're going to see what he can do. Apparently Clearway's half tank can't win. Probably a very smart thing. Some top tier knowledge. But we'll see how this race pans out. We do have a couple of new arrivals. One of them being Colin Bateman. I wouldn't say a late addition, but later than the start of the season. So his first race out here for the OR Red Split is going to be at Branch Hatch. We'll see where he ends up. Currently silver rated, so we don't know just how good he is going to be. And then I believe Mendez, who is not here. Another addition to the Sprint Series. So Thomas Pierce getting ready to set us up for the first lap of what I can only assume to be a decent number of laps here in qualifying. 15 minutes, of course, so a lot of time. And 30 minutes out, still going to be bright and sunny. So no chance at some freak last-second improvements just before the rain falls. And Thomas Pierce is starting that flying lap now. So let's see what he can do. We'll stick with him right on board, and he will just give you a nice little preview of the circuit. Not a preview, but a full-fledged experience of Brands Hatch from one of North America's top drivers. Sit back, get your popcorn, get your drinks, take a listen, and take in all the sights and sounds that you're about to hear. Just, you see how much he throws it outside those curbs. Just master class and how much of this circuit you can use. So he runs onto the grass there, but this should give us an indication of the pace that we'll be seeing here this evening rather. Of course, if you're just joining us, welcome to the broadcast. You just missed out on the very fun and exciting world of passwords being changed and misspelled, and I had no idea. But a 23:11 right off the bat, that's okay. That's something that we're going to have to look forward to. Spencer Brown, P2, with that 23:78. Rasco, 23:81. Braden Thompson there, P4, 23:94. So we have 4 drivers within 24 seconds. Or a minute 24, excuse me. Jonathan Bass doesn't make it. Same with Darren Wicks. He's having some trouble there. Keeping that Audi pointed in the right direction. Not so much the Audi tings we saw in previous versions of the game, but, you know, do you ever really get rid of it? Not too certain. Sean Conway. position number 10 with that 26.03. Hamza Gulzar is just now starting a flying lap, so we're going to see where he pops out. This man is a threat, especially in the Honda. Did it last season, and he's looking to keep the good times rolling. Could he be on pace to take a position away from Mr. Thomas Pierce? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, as Bateman, 26.66, is enough for 11th at the moment. But out of the final corner, Gulzar goes. And let's see where he ends up. Across the line he goes. It's a 24.16, but it doesn't count. So for now, he has to sit back and wait. Once more, Darren Wicks. Bit of an improvement for him. Could it put him above Bass? No, it doesn't. Or actually, it does, sorry. By 0.05 of a second. So the Audi, that looks suspiciously like a certain rally livery of one of the best rally cars of all time. Don't at me. Tommy Kogan for Waifu Express. God, I can't get over that. Is P8 at the moment, 24.09 or 25.90, so under 25 on his timer. Thomas Pierce, 22.93. He just put that in not too long ago. He's running about equal with himself. Gulzar out of the pit lane, so it looks like he's made some setup changes to try and maybe remedy a couple of those issues. Brian Rasco on an improvement right now, 0.3, about 0.4, hovering between the two. This would put him ahead of Brown, but not quite ahead of Thompson. There'd still be about another 0.3 he needs to pick up somewhere. But that will be a tall order for him to fill. Just keeps it pinned on the inside, the shortest run possible to the line. Up into P3 at that 23.37. He's actually a 10th off of Thompson, so that's surprising. Gained a little bit more time. I know it looks about 2/10, but it's, well, if you want to really split hairs, you're looking at what, 1.154, 145? I don't know. I'm not a math guy, but he's got some pace there. Hamza Gulzar is getting ready to start another lap here at Brands Hatch. Thomas Pierce, though, still with the fastest by a decent margin. Kevin Parody, someone we've seen in the booth and on track, and he is going to be on track for this season unless something happens as he moves up a position into 11th at 23.8 or 23.18. 25.18. I can't read tonight. Is what he is going to be rolling and rocking and bopping and hopping with. Who else is out there? Colin Bateman, almost a full second up. This might overtake Parody or Conway. It doesn't, but it puts him about 0.06 behind his fellow McLaren. So a lot of McLarens here actually in this split. Definitely one of the better cars overall. Andrew Wilson with a classic livery. I think we saw him with it on the Honda last season. We loved it. I loved it. So he comes across the line, currently P6 up to P5. Just pulls Lanham out of the way with that 23.94, about 0.2 or so up. So we could see if that changes. Let's see, Hamza Gulzar. Let's look at him because he has yet to put in a valid lap. He had a couple of little track excursions, and now he had to make some setup adjustments, and now he's back out on track. So will this lap count? Because it's very uncharacteristic of the Canadian to not be at least on pole or at least in the top 10 within the first couple of laps, and it's only P14. What in the world is going on with Gulzar? His head might be in the clouds today. Uncharacteristic of him, but could still improve. Speaking of improvement, Javier Marquez, P17 at the moment, hasn't set a time, has been struggling to really find pace, and he goes P4 with a 23.48, just like that. Wasn't able to find a valid lap, but he eventually got all the cogs working together in harmony. Find himself a long way up. Hamza Golzar, half a second, won't do much of anything. He is 3.8, almost 3.9 off the pace. This is not the Golzar we're used to. And he is just pushing as much as he can. I almost don't want to look because I feel like I'm going to do something. Braden Thompson right now in P3, so he's held on 9/100ths behind Rasco. And he's run it out wide and crashed into the wall. He's going to maybe make some setup adjustments and then go from there. Hamza Golzar, there it is. He has found several seconds from his pace. 3.5 up, crosses the line. There it is, up into P4 for number 14 at 23:27. That's more like it. That's the Golzar I know. And he still has 5 minutes to work with to make something stick. Even better than what he's got right now. Thomas Pierce starts a flying lap. He's going to try to improve, but 22:93, that's a very strong time. Very hard to beat. Andrew Wilson, P7, is about even, maybe a little bit more under the hood as he powers down that front stretch. Does he improve? No, he doesn't. No, he does actually improve by a little bit, but not enough to move him anywhere. Just a little bit of a buffer down to Lanham by 3/10. Eduardo Sanchez. Another car with some anime waifus on the side. Seems to be pretty popular as he, woo, almost loses it. Perhaps he was sticking his head out the window and looking down at the side and didn't quite see the corner. But he's got half a second right now despite that. This would put him a couple places up. Kogan and Bass definitely would be removed from in front of him, just right on the inside line. There it is, right up to 8. Oh, even it goes over Lanham, surprisingly. So gained a couple more tenths there at the end. Ryan Luke, a driver we have not talked about too much. I think the livery is starting to work. I think that's what it's supposed to look like. I'd have to double check if that's what it looks like. And if it does, grand. If it doesn't, well, we tried. P18 right now for the 666 machine. Satan not present at the hills today. Probably got lost on the way there or is stuck on one of the numerous highways that British people love complaining about. With the M30, the M35, M9, I don't know. Yeah, he's getting here, don't worry. Oh, hold on. Thomas Pierce. Thomas Pierce has some pace here. Could we see a lower 22? Could we see possibly a mid 22? I don't know. He's got some heat there. We'll cut away. We'll look at Conway. Almost said Convoy. That's the wrong one. As he heads up through Sheen. He's got 2/10. It won't be enough to overtake Parity. However, if he can find just a little bit more, a little bit of magic there, he could find himself in 14th out of the final corner. It's going to be close. But how close is the question? Oh my, almost 300ths. It stays in P15. Thomas Pierce, he's maintained the gap, flashing the lights, crosses the line. 22.805 for him. He looked at almost 2/10 before, but lost a little bit of time and is still flashing the lights there on Luke. He wants him to get out of the way. He's being held up, and he almost loses himself. I don't know if they're communicating and saying hello or if he wants him to get around. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but these guys are in VC, so they should be able to call out to each other. But Thomas Pierce, man, improves on what I thought was unimprovable, but like always, I'm proven wrong and told to shut up. Ryan Luke is improving. He doesn't want to yield. He's on a half-second improvement. This would put him ahead of Parkinson. And it looks like, yeah, Pierce is backed out. He realizes, or has maybe been told, that he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. So Luke, 0.8. Oh, he's got a lot of time here. Under the bridge. Does he jump up a fair bit? Ooh, this... He'll at least get Parkinson. Bateman is so far ahead, so it'll only be one position. There it is. Up into 17th with that 26.55. 40 seconds to go here in quali. Eduardo Sanchez has had a monstrous run right now. 6/10 is what he is going to improve upon. 23.3 puts him in the top 5 there. Just towards the end of qualifying. He's going to have one more shot, one more opportunity. His knees aren't weak, his arms aren't heavy. And Darren Wicks, he does improve, doesn't move though. Bass still 4/10 ahead of him. So drivers recognizing that that's going to be it. They can't get any more time. Darren Wicks is one of them. Bateman, Luke, Parkinson, Bass, Lanham, Weldon, Wilson, Thompson, Rasco, Pierce, all in the pit lane. They are not going to try and go for anything bigger or better. Spencer Brown, I think, just popped into the pits. Eduardo Sanchez, the only driver out, and he's on an improvement. It's a little bit. It's flicking between 0.1 up and being dead even with himself. Throws it over Sheen. Down into the penultimate corner. How well can he make it work? And he runs it way too wide. I don't know if that's within track limits. It might barely be within, but this could put him into position number 4 ahead of Braden Thompson. As he gets into the final corner, tucks it right on the inside. Across the line he goes. And it is going to be enough. Takes 4th away from Thompson by 7 thousandths of a second. And that is going to be the end of qualifying. Man, we saw it earlier with somebody getting pole position right at the end. But now it's time for our, well, my favorite thing. I don't know about you guys, but I love doing this. And this is, well, the standard grid walk of these cars. The clouds hanging over Brands Hatch this time. Could this be an indication of some precipitation to come? I'm not too certain about that, but what I am certain of is Gulzar on pole, surprisingly. I'm not quite certain what that's all about. Unless he improved off screen, I didn't notice, which is a possibility. Thomas Pierce joins them. It's Rasco. Sanchez, a very, very good improvement right at the end of qualifying to put him in the top 5. Actually, just goes over Braden Thompson. And then it's Marquez, Brown, Wilson, Weldon, Lanham, Kogan, Bass. That's all the way down to 12th there. 13th belongs to Darren Wicks in the Audi. Kevin Parody just beside him. 14th position for the number 23. Sean Conway, 4:20. Not a blazingly fast time, but still competitive. Conway, Bateman, the new arrival, finding himself in 16th. And then it's Luke and Parkinson rounding it out. And of course, the Simrigs safety car. What would it be without this little BMW? Would it really be a Simrigs safety car, Sprint Series, Super Race, other Super Sprint, Mini Enduro? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be. And that's why we love that little BMW oh so much. We always make sure it's a different car, not a GT3, not something close. We always go with the GT4s. Now we've had the Chevrolet, obviously we have the BMW. I want to see the KTM. I think that'd just be kind of neat. It's not really a good car. It looks cool. It looks cool, I'll give it that, but yeah, not the quickest. Not the quickest. But drivers making their final setup changes as we get ready for an hour, the final hour of action here at Brands Hatch. And we'll just take a quick moment as things get ready to get going. Shout out Simrigs, of course, for sponsoring Season 12, and hopes to be working with them again as, well, we continue our broadcasts of the Octane Online Racing Sprint Series and every event we do. We're always glad to have them around, and they've continued to help us out. Australia, New Zealand, Melbourne-based sim racing supplier, got you covered. Outside of that, emails, you've got 5% off if you're our Patreon member, but back out on track we are, ladies and gentlemen, for the start of this race. Everybody is off the jacks, and the safety car is away, and we get ready for the final parade lap of the evening. Goals are on pole. Thomas Pierce joins him on that front row. Rasco, Sanchez, Thompson, top 5. Marquez, beautiful stuff from him. Second highest Pro-Am, of course, Sanchez besting him right at the end. Brown, Wilson, Weldon, and then Lanham, highest rated amateur driver, into the top 10. So very surprising from him, especially last week. Did not have the best of luck at Paul Ricard. Kogan, Bass, Wicks, Parody, Conway, Bateman, Luke, Parkinson is your final set of drivers. So we are going to be on for some very good action here as Gulls are getting a little friendly with the safety car. If the safety car can hear me, if whoever's driving the safety car can hear me, can you just like weave side to side a little bit? I just want to see that, because I feel like there's some like telepathic connection. By that I mean they have the stream open. So if you can hear me, safety car, when you get the chance, give me some left to right, give me some weaves, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're ready for the final race of the evening here at Brands Hatch. It's North America Red, looking to try and top what North America Blue did just not too long ago. Thankfully able to get the password all sorted out. We're able to get into the server. I guess the safety car doesn't hear me. Very, very sad. But we're 2 by 2. As they trundle on up. Maybe the safety car will do a wiggle now. No, will not wiggle. Unfortunate. But yes, drivers, of course, weaving side to side, getting some last-minute heat in the tires before we go green. Warming up the brakes as well. You do see the BMW there of Marquez doing just that. Lurching forward and then slamming on the brakes. It's these little bits of heat that can make a massive difference, especially into something like Turn 1 or even up into Druids. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of these drivers handle the pressure. Hamza Golzar, though, on pole. A very familiar sight from him. Thomas Pierce somehow holds on to a P2 despite everything, and it's green, green, green here at Brands Hatch for the last time. Brian Rasco getting an excellent jump there on Thomas Pierce, but it's not going to matter as we go down to Turn 1. Bollar's getting punted off the track. I believe that was Sanchez, and it is as he goes tumbling down the order. The Audi of Brown getting almost sandwiched there for a second. Is able to maintain the position, is able to keep going, and down the inside goes Marquez, who does get this move done. It looked like Wilson tried to go for something, had to back out, couldn't make the move stick. There was too much McLaren in the way. Hamza Golzar and Rasco have gotten away beautifully. And we look back through the grid. Tommy Kogan at the back with Parkinson. Where has Sanchez ended up? All the way down in P13. That is massive for him. Just got a little out of shape at the start, and well, all that work to get up into 4th washed away in an instant. And these clouds probably not filling with too much confidence, as it looks like there could be rain on the forecast. This line of 3 McLarens behind 2 Audis. But the first lap, Sanchez here has gotten a better exit. He has the inside line and will just pull ahead of Conway. Conway spinning himself out, loses the back end of the McLaren. There's Kevin Parody diving into the sand trap. The back end there, just stepping out, had to correct. Thankfully was able to not hit anybody, but it's not what was supposed to go down. Javier Marquez, whoa, look at Brown there. Getting right up there, close and personal with the Colombian. Keeps it clean. There, you could have barely put a piece of paper between them. And in the background, it's Spencer Weldon for Achieve, doing battle with Lawrence Lanham as he goes wide. Lanham down the inside there. Look at this guy, amateur, looking like a pro, making moves and getting up there. Too early to call it, of course. The race just started, but gotta be proud of himself for what has been on display already. Jonathan Bass with Eduardo Sanchez. How well can he hold up to the coolest looking McLaren livery we've ever seen here in the OR? A much better exit there for the Mexican. Pulls him in so close with the slipstream. Decides to fire it down the inside. Bass isn't even going to attempt to fight it, but as I say that, he's back on the counter-offensive on the inside line into Druitt. Sanchez having to hang it around the outside. Looks for a switchback, but the door's closed. Still on the inside. Can he scare Bass off of this corner? Yes, he does. Here, there, and gone. The only settings that Sanchez knows. And he has done a great job. Bass pushed outside of the top 10. Sanchez continues his quest back into the top 5. He's got 56 minutes to do it. But how well is that going to work out? Colin Bateman, the debutant here in the Sprint Series, feeling the wrath of Tommy Cogan, a name that we have seen quite a lot of here in the past in Sprint Series. The Waifu Express will get you a position in 2 days or less, or it's free. And right now, he is using the super expedited process. As Bateman gets a little squirrely there. Penultimate corner. Can Cogan hang it around the outside? No, he can't. Tries a little bit of a switchback, but it's covered off. The exit, though, could go either way. It's a pretty solid exit from both of these drivers heading down into turn number 1 on the inside. Bateman sits, and Cogan backs out. Although, because of that, he's going to get a much straighter exit, gets the power down much earlier. Bateman sees it coming, covers off the inside, just keeps it pinned to the apex. Tommy Cogan has not been able to find the gaps that he wants because Bateman seems to have his playbook. Another switcheroo is shut down as the McLaren holds off the Audi for another corner. How long is this one going to last? That's the big question right now. Brian Rasco, Brandon Thompson, this is P2 right now. Hamza Golzar is 3.6. He's gone at this point. He's going to say, all right, you guys are going to do your thing. I'm going to be here. Thanks for playing. I'll see you later. There's Javier Marquez as well. Or sorry, no, it is Javier Marquez. My apologies. Also just lurking. He's waiting. He knows that something could happen in due time. It's just a matter of when. If he can find the pace, he could find a couple positions. We have penalties getting dished out already. So Lanham, 10 seconds. That was the touch I believe we saw on Sanchez. That pushed him far and away down the grid. And speaking of Lanham, he's starting to struggle with that BMW. Can't really keep Wilson out of his rear view mirror. But he is maintaining. And again, with these penalties, get it before... Ooh, Thomas Pearson to the pits. That's surprising. I wonder what that's all about. But with this penalty, of course, it'll get served at his next pit stop, and then he'll try to keep it clean for the rest of the race, get one more pit stop done and dusted. And from there, well, get back into the action. We look out the back here of Braden Thompson's Aston Martin. Can't really get Marquez out of there. And there's Brown just sitting back. Isn't really close enough for anything. The only way he's going to pick up those positions is if something disastrous happens to both of these. Knock on wood. There we go. I think we've done enough caster cursing tonight. Darren Wicks still struggling to pull away. Even though he's named worst pace scenario, his pace is looking damn fine right now. But Sanchez just will not leave him alone. 4/10 is the difference. It was the same last lap. It's the same here. 4/10 pace difference. And for an amateur class driver, he's doing a very good job of keeping this Pro-Am behind. The sun's starting to come out. Darren Wicks, you can't give up the position. I just said you're doing so well. Squeezes Sanchez onto the shoulder and holds on for another lap. But the sun is coming out, so that'll warm things up a little bit. Probably won't get higher than it currently is with 21 ambient, 27 track. Braden Thompson finding himself in a similar position, but instead of being in a BMW trying to hold off someone, he's getting chased by a BMW. And ahead is Brian Rasco. So yeah, Gulzar 5 seconds already. We'll see how big that gap is once we get back to the timing line once more. Darren Wicks still with that 3/10 gap. So let's see, 5.6 seconds right now. Gulzar sits. So I will not be surprised. Whoa, Sanchez. I thought for a moment he was going to go off. Gulzar just doing what he does best. Just getting out there, driving around in circles for a while, and then being like, ah, checkered flag, thank you very much. Gulzar, of course, looking for his second win this season. He won in that first race at Paul Ricard, and he's going to look to do it again here. Sanchez, oh, right onto the grass. Keeps it together, thankfully. I think the lack of an overtake might be getting to his head a little bit here. As he's really fighting this car right now. Oh, better exit, though, in the slipstream. Could he go for something here? Keep an eye on that right foot. Does he lift early? No, he doesn't. It's the downshift, though. Still behind. Has to back off. Darren Wicks is losing some time. Up into Sheen we go. And despite faltering a little bit, Wicks collects himself and is able to just stay ahead for another lap. But you can see Sanchez trying everything he can. Braking later, braking sooner, trying to get a straighter exit here, trying to switch back there, but Darren Wicks is just prepared for this. It's like nothing to him. Just covering off where he thinks Sanchez is going to go. And the thing is he's got the playbook right in his hand. Sanchez may have to reach into his hat, see if he can find a rabbit in there somewhere. But this has been an exciting battle to keep an eye on. Lawrence Lanham as well in a similar situation as Spencer Weldon doesn't get a shaky exit. Using the slipstream, trying to find the time to pull out of the slipstream proper. Isn't able to do it, though. You saw him just poking his head in and out like a meerkat. Darren Wicks, though, in a lot more trouble now, as he's been missing some corners onto the grass just a little bit. Could unsettle the Audi, bring it offline by just a tad. Oh, and Sanchez, no, runs it off onto the grass. Keeps it straight forward. He's just getting a bit impatient, it looks like. Oh, we've got Conway off. I don't know what happened there, as we do see Pierce going around. Keep in mind, Pierce has already served a pit stop. So this might be the undercut to end all undercuts. As he gains a position and continues on. And look at that, despite Sanchez doing a little bit of lawn mowing here at Brands Hatch, he's able to just pull right back up. Darren Wicks, though, when he goes to mow the lawn, it's not as lucky, it's not as quick on the recovery. And look at that again, just both of them fighting their cars all the time. gained is lost, and lost is gained. Wicks on the inside. Sanchez trying to hang it around the outside here. Is it gonna work? That's the big question. No. Wicks staying on the inside line. That might even invite Bass into the mix, a driver that we haven't really seen too much of today, seeing as we've been focusing on a couple of battles and a couple of other spots. But because these two are fighting so much, he has slowly been moving himself into a more advantageous position, even though Wicks with a 25.37, Bass with a 24.92, so he does have the pace. And there's the switchback from Sanchez on the inside. He does get ahead at the timing line, barely, but he's got to keep it together. Down into turn number 1 he goes, firing it on the brakes, beautifully done, and finally has gotten around. He can get back into clean air and is able to start recovering much better. Bass there, ooh, almost thought about an open door, but it looked to be more of a cat door than a human door. He'll have to back out of that one. Ryan Luke. How about this little battle right now? Conway, despite the excursion, the lawn mowing, it seems like everybody's making sure the grounds here at Brands Hatch are well kept. Has gotten back into the race. And is doing a pretty solid job right now. Conway, of course, yet to be ranked here. So within the next couple of weeks, we should be seeing a lot of these silvers getting changed over to Am, Pro-Am, or Pro, as Conway finds some daylight down the inside, but Luke is able to carry more speed through the corner and stays ahead. So we're going to sit here and keep an eye on these two, because wouldn't you know it, this is where the battle currently is. Everyone else within half a second, but not as close as these two. Give you a nice point of view of what Conway is probably seeing right now. I know depending on who you ask, some people go for the hood or bonnet cam, if you're one of those. If you're like me, you go for cockpit cam. Actually, no, you go for, what's it, dash? Yeah, you go for dash. I have a wheel. I know what my wheel's doing. I don't need to show people what my wheel's doing. Well, we'll take a break from that. Darren Wicks has Bass behind. So Darren Wicks' last lap at 26.06. Bass at 26.27. So 2/10 and then some. But how is that going to play out? And Thomas Pierce, the only driver so far to go into the pit lane. Everyone else still has to. He is a lap down, but that is possibly deliberate. All part of the master plan. Does the side of his car say Cope? Is that what I just saw? Darren, wait, hold on. Hold on. Wait a second, Mr. Wicks. You can't do that. You can't do that. Wait a minute. Does it say Cope on the side? Oh, it says Dope. Okay. I thought it said... I said Cope. Oh, Jonathan Bass is in, though, for his first pit stop of the day. So, getting in early, perhaps, maybe catching Wicks out later. And battles sort of subsiding a bit, although Luke isn't as fortunate. Still dealing with Conway. Conway behind by 4/10, although there may have been some unnecessary Husqvarna lines. So we'll get a better indication here. Conway 2/10 better than Ryan Luke right now as they continue on. Tim Parkinson's has a nice front row seat from Great Lakes Racing. Personally, I think Michigan's the best one, but we can have a discussion about that another time. But yeah, he's got a nice little overview of what's happening. As Conway, whoa, huge send down the inside. Luke opened up the door, and it looks like that may have been enough. And it has. Conway, the dive worked, and Luke having to back out just lifts. Lets that car coast on through. I mean, he was extremely close. Conway was right there. It might have been a little too close for my liking, but he got the job done. Didn't cause any damage. It picks up position 15. Darren Wicks into the pit lane now. So things are settling down. Battles are on hold for the time being. So there's Thomas Pierce right now. Despite being a back marker, he does have the pace. And probably asking drivers and race stewards to give him an exemption to get around some of these slower cars. So he knows the pace is there. As long as he does it clean, I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue. Ryan Luke into the pit lane after his battle. Probably needs a moment to recollect himself. Thomas Pierce getting a little antsy. Wants to get around Bateman. I mean, Thomas Pierce, familiar name. There it is. Yep. So, that's not going to be contact. That's just Bateman doing it to himself. Thomas Pierce can continue on to get back on the lead lap. And hopefully bring up some very good points here this evening. Let's hop up here. Braden Thompson and Javier Marquez. These two have been very close to each other for the last handful of laps. 24-2 for Braden Thompson. 24-04 for Javier Marquez, though. So it's a couple of tenths here and there. It seems to be going back and forth right now. You see some blue flags up ahead, so this will throw a little bit of a wrench into the works for this battle. So these guys have to navigate each other. They have to navigate the soon-to-be blue flags up ahead. I'm not quite certain who that was. That might be Ryan Luke. Oh, Brian Rasco. There it is. Rasco goes into the pits. Thompson follows. Oh, just gets on the brakes. Javier Marquez stays out. Gulzar, of course, staying out. Lanham passes up the pits. Same with Weldon, Wilson, Brown, Sanchez. Will probably pass up the pit lane as well. No, into the pit lane for the number 21. Kogan will pass it up. So the two waifu teams maybe working together, working in tandem. Colin Bateman. What does he do? Passes it up. Same with Parity. Conway will probably pass up as well if I had to bet on it. So yeah, we have some very large gaps right now. There's not a lot of battles happening. Drivers are far too busy getting pit lanes sorted. Whoa, Conway. You probably heard me. I was like, you know what? No, I am going to pit. Screw you, Nick. You don't know anything. Tim Parkinson stays out. Jonathan Bass has already served a pit stop. Same with Wicks, Pierce, and Luke. So Pierce is chasing down Wicks right now. This is a battle for position. When he eventually pulls up to the rear end of the Audi, 23-19, or sorry, 23-37 for Pierce, and then a 30.68. Not a true showing of Wicks' pace. Wicks' best lap is a 24.86, which is 0.3 slower. Or actually, it's well over a second. I can't do math, but you can see Thomas Pierce, just how much more skillful he is compared to Wicks. Swings it around the outside. There's position 16 picked up for the number 131. So he gets in there. Sean Conway gets out of the way. Finds himself behind Darren Wicks. Tommy Kogan, Javier Marquez, of course, in the pit lane here. Marquez off the jacks. Perfect timing. Back out onto the racetrack. Let's see what this does. Marquez comes out here behind Braden Thompson, surprisingly. He is close. Oh, Conway, 5 seconds. That might be for the dive bomb, actually. I know that within the Sprint Series sphere, not just here in North America, but in EU and Asia Pacific, there were talks at the end of last season about the use of dive bombs. Drivers feeling that there was perhaps far too many from what they were expecting, so the stewards have been a little bit more harsh on those. And they may see Conway's move earlier on in the race as such a ill-advised, illegal move, if you will. So that's probably what that's all about. Weldon and Wilson into the pit lane here. But if I had to bet on it, that is probably what it's all about. So it's before the final mandatory stop, of course, so Conway will just have 5 seconds added on to the 30 seconds that he usually has for a pit stop, and can get back out there. We'll see how his race goes. Brian Rasco coming up here to Luke. Back marker. Driver right now. Weldon's out of the pit lane, and there it is, Wilson just starting to move. Weldon comes out ahead of Gulzar, but the problem is that blue car is blue flagged, so he is going to have to let the charging Canadian on through. Oh, Tim Parkinson in the pits now. Oh, Conway, it's now a 10-second penalty. Very interesting. Spencer Brown, number 12, picks up a 10-second penalty for an unsafe rejoin on lap 11. I literally saw the penalty pop up, and I looked over, and the penalty still wasn't given to Brown. So that's pretty good timing. And what's also really good timing is at least going into the pits anyways to serve his first mandatory stop, his first of 2. So that'll just get taken out of the way pretty much immediately. So in my book, that's pretty smart. Colin Bateman as well. Oh, I don't know if he was under the posted speed limit. He may get dinged for that. Hopefully not. It would be a stop go 30, but that does get changed. So currently, Gulzar, Lanham, and Parity have yet to do their first pit stop, and as I say that, Gulzar comes in, lines it up beautifully, and throws on the hazards. What a guy. It's probably just part of the kit. So, Lawrence Lanham, 10 seconds of penalties for that lap 1 collision, for causing it, of course. So that'll get added on, and then it's just Kevin Parity, who has yet to serve a pit stop, the first of 2, as Lanham runs it very wide. And we'll see what Parity does. God, that's such a nice looking McLaren. A lot better than the Tortoise from last season, for anyone that remembers that. I know I did. I looked at it far more than I thought I would. But yeah, let's see if Parity decides to get some fresh tires. Get back out there. Of course, half an hour to go on that pit window. So even if you wait till the last 30 seconds, it's still quite a long stint comparatively. Passes it up. Again, Darren Wick's getting blue flagged for Hamza Gulzar. Will he let him through? Eventually he will have to, or else he will be getting a penalty. And there it is. Hamza Gulzar is through. Will retake the lead when this BMW over yonder goes into the pit lane. Whenever that event does occur, and then it's just Parity that has to still serve that first pit stop, and they'll get ready for those final rounds later on. There it is, Lawrence Lanham into the pit lane with 10 seconds hanging over his head as well, so that'll get added on to the pit stop. So Gulzar goes back into the lead here. Kevin Parity being chased down by Brian Rasco at the moment, but once he goes into the pits. Probably going to start bleeding positions. Here we go. Andrew Wilson, Eduardo Sanchez, P8 right now. 2 McLaren drivers trying to gain some position. Whoa, Sanchez, a slightly different line, actually pulls right up to Wilson. Has to be quick on the brake. Wow, that's... I don't even know if he made the corner. I think that might be a little bit of a track cut, but who am I to judge? And Sanchez, again, he's done this before. He just gets a little too ambitious out of sheen and goes wide and has to be very careful over the grass. Hopefully nothing happens. But that's been Marquez, or not Marquez, excuse me, that's been Sanchez's deal, it seems like, this whole race. Just getting up on somebody, going through Sheen corner, going a little too wide, and losing all that time, having to do it all over again. Parity lets Ras go through. Lana picks up a drive-through that is going to be for track limits. If it's taken away, might be replaced. Of course, server admins have the ability to give and take penalties as they see fit. Of course, that's why we see, yep, there it is, 5 seconds, and that should soon be 10. There it is. So instead of driving through, he will just be forced to add 10 seconds onto his next pit stop. Obviously not what you want, but that's the name of the game. Javier Marquez blows by Parity. I think Parity may be going into the pits, or maybe a little bit of self-preservation. No, it is pit time. Time for a little bit of a break here for the Canadian. So he is the last of the drivers to do their first pit stop, and this should reorganize everything. Lawrence Lanham here. I don't know why it says he's out on track. Of course he's out on track. That's how it works. Andrew Wilson? No, not in the pits. Broadcast controller having some issues. Then again, when is it not? Eduardo Sanchez, though, does go through. Maybe it thought because he was so slow he was going into the pit lane. But Sanchez getting the move done. P6. Looking at P5. He's got to get back up to P4, though. He's got to get around Weldon. He's got to get around Thompson. And that's going to be the key to getting right back to where he started, which preferably would be better than finishing behind where he started, especially after that lap 1 collision. But just goes to show you how skillful this guy is. Able to just get his head down and get the laps moving. Of course, I talked about him going wide at Sheen Corner the last few times, but regardless of that, still a very consistent, very talented driver. And that is on full display here. Andrew Wilson getting around the back marker. I believe that's Parkinson. Yes, it is. Parkinson, not the best race for him. I have to keep going. Thomas Pierce, currently P13. After pitting very, very early, finds himself with Bateman just ahead. A driver that he is most definitely faster than. Bateman's last lap, a 26.14. For Pierce, it was a 23.88. So this man just chiseling his way through. Bit by bit. He knows this track like the back of his hand. He knows just how far those curbs really do extend. It's very deceptive at some corners. You think they go out as far as they appear, but you see like a little checkerboard almost in the grass. That's a solid piece of road that you can use. From there, while you just sort of gain an extra bit of time. Tommy Cogan with Spencer Brown behind. Last lap for Cogan, 24.9. For Spencer Brown, 24.01. So almost a full second between them on that last lap, and that has been what Spencer Brown has been playing with these last few laps, just slowly bringing in the Audi ahead, little by little, excuse me. Whew. And we could be seeing an overtake here. Whoa, Tommy Cogan. Drift action there. I don't know how often you use an Audi for drifting, but hey man, go off. This is always a nice little battle between drivers in similar cars, because even though the cars are exactly the same, you know the setups are going to be ever so slightly different, and how you utilize that setup is really the difference between a good driver and a great driver. Brown looks down the inside, almost scares himself out as he gets a little bit loose. Gathers it up and gets it back in a more productive direction. Spencer Weldon, despite Sanchez's late arrival to the scene, is pulled up and is a lot closer than he was before. And again, just like we saw with Kogan and Brown, same machinery, slightly different setup, slightly different skill set. Even within the same class, both of these drivers are Pro-Am rated, but there is still always going to be some discrepancy between the drivers. Obviously right now Sanchez proving my point, not in the way I thought I would, but point is proven, as that gap has opened right up. He's gone a little bit wide a couple of times, not what he was really putting into the planner, but 26.5 to go here. Plenty of time. Tommy Kogan barely ahead. Rasco, I think Marquez looked down the inside for a moment but backed out. On to lap 23 here this evening at Brands Hatch. It's Golzar still on top, ahead of Rasco, Marquez, Thompson, your top 5, Sanchez, Wilson, Kogan, Brown. Land on the top 10. There's Kogan with a bit of a flick there from the Audi. Down the inside goes Brown, and that's all the invitation he needs up into P8. The Audis trading spots, and now all that time that Brown has been taking away from Kogan, lap after lap after lap, has finally culminated to a nice, sweet little bread, and he is going to savor it. Thomas Pierce into the pits. This man is doing something I am too smooth and small-brained to understand. He is certainly doing something. Hamza Golzar still holding on to the fastest, 23.012. I mean, that is quite the statement. And the gap, what was the gap? I just saw the gap for a second and then it flicked away. Did that say 16 seconds to Rasco? Hold on, we'll wait for it to update. There's no way it just said 16 seconds. I refuse to believe that. Because if that's the case, almost 16 and a half seconds. This is Hamza Golzar in general, ladies and gents. I would just like to make that abundantly clear. This is the normal Golzar. This is just his state of being. He goes out, he wrecks face, and then he goes to bed. That's what he does. And he's really good at it. And it makes me very happy that I am in this seat and not the driver's seat, because I would be scared. So, Thomas Pierce clearing up his last mandatory pit stop. Every other driver on the field still has one more to do. Ryan Luke in the way of 2 Audis, but able to just step aside. There's Thomas Pierce. You just saw him bottom of the shot. Racing for position. Look around, we'll see what's happening. Spencer Weldon. Eduardo Sanchez. Sanchez pulling it right back into contention for that fifth position, rather, excuse me. His lap was 2:10 slower this time. Oh my goodness, 25.26 for Weldon, 23.99 for Sanchez. That is a huge chunk of time, as Weldon, I think, just missed his break point a little bit. I mean, he wants this P5, but he knows that Sanchez has some pace, but Sanchez just pushing it. And that McLaren doesn't want to do exactly what he's asking. He's asking too much of the machine, and right there, more time taken out. Now, here's the question. Does Sanchez bank on a better pit stop and going for the undercut and trying to get Weldon that way? Or does he follow him in? Was he able to know where Weldon's pit box is? Because if it's at the end of the lane, Sanchez could mirror him, get into the box early, and maybe possibly get back ahead of the number 93. Many pieces are in play right now, each with their own strategy, and every single one of them a universe of possibilities within, and we gotta figure out which one we get to see. And that's the thing I love about racing. It's these slow burns. Watching lap after lap, Sanchez! Oh no! Oh, we're in the sad universe. That did not look deliberate. That looked accidental, but I'm sure the stewards will still give Sanchez a penalty for that. Wasn't expecting the break point of Weldon, and he pushes him out of the way. And that's a case of, well, just getting that penalty before that mandatory stop. Unfortunate, but thankfully Weldon didn't go into the wall and got right back on track behind Wilson, of course, who will take a free position. But that's not how either of them wanted it to happen. Bateman into the pit lane for the last time. And I'm sure Sanchez now, his pit stop strategy has definitely changed. I think before he may have said mirror Weldon or undercut or maybe go for the overcut, but now it's going to be wait till you get the penalty and go from there. Wait for that penalty to come through and then serve your pit stop. Because if you go in now, you're going to get a penalty anyways, and you're just going to, you know, mess your race up. But for him, he's probably just waiting. He's probably praying the stewards give him a penalty soon enough. If he is going to get one, of course. No one ever prays for a penalty, but something like that, you might want to just get it immediately and go from there. So, Bateman, the only driver to clear both stops. Everyone, one more to go. Lanham and Conway, 10 seconds apiece. Penalty time added on to the pit stop for the 420 machine. I believe that was for his dive bomb earlier on in the race. For the 502 BMW, that was the collision on lap 1. And Javier Marquez is in. Braden Thompson is in as well. So that'll be their pit stops in the books. Conway as well. So Conway will finally serve that 10-second penalty. Eduardo Sanchez and Andrew Wilson go in. Oh, Sanchez, I don't know if that was the best move. Maybe it's better to go in now and then try to gain time on track, rather than wait for the penalty to come through and end up losing more time. This is why I'm not a strategist. I'm just a driver. Give me a strategy and I will make it work. I'm just like that. And Javier Marquez out. Back into the world. Conway Luke into the pit lane here to serve that final pit stop this evening. To answer your question, Butch, no, I don't believe he made contact with the dive bomb. But I said earlier in the broadcast that there had been talks on the off-season about sort of dealing with all of these dive bombs that we've seen in seasons past and trying to discourage drivers in the best way they can do it. In my opinion, in the opinion of the governing body, is to just dish out a penalty. There's Brian Rasco into the pits as well, Darren Wicks. But I'm assuming that's why that came through. I'm not certain. Conway has a drive-through. That's going to get changed over because of just where we are in the race. I don't have access to the stewarding chat, so I don't know what the case is. But we'll see. We'll see. Tonkin, normally I would maybe agree with you, but we have seen a lot of passes here that haven't been dive bombs, that have been, you know, over-unders, old switcheroos, the driver ahead making a mistake. So in some regard, you know, maybe, yeah, it's a little hard to pass at Brands Hatch without a dive bomb, but a lot of these drivers are very good at making sure they aren't doing that, and even at wider tracks where they struggle to go around. But again, I'm just taking a guess here. I'm not certain. I'm not going to pretend like I have the right answer. But I do agree that this is a very tight track. Tommy Kogan getting his final stop done. Jonathan Bass getting this final stop done, dusted, and out of the way. Conway, 10 seconds, so that pit lane speeding penalty will be swapped on over. Lanham still has to serve that final pit stop. Same with Spencer Brown, Hamza Golzar, and Kevin Parody, and Tim Parkinson. We'll see if these drivers go in. Lanham, man, really throwing it out there. He has Javier Marquez. He's going to lose the spot regardless, so does he go in now and just do a final maybe 15-minute stint? Or does he stay out and continue on? Looks like he's going for option B. Javier Marquez is faster. We'll have no problem with the overtake as we go into turn number 1. Marquez looking at the inside, backing out. Hamza Golzar, there he is, into the pit lane. Spencer Brown, look at how far behind he is. Normally we're seeing drivers go in and the person they're trying to undercut is right behind him. Hamza Golzar is in a completely different time zone. I am fairly certain he is in the future right now, because that is an absolutely ridiculous gap to play with. We'll see if 58.3 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing a gap of almost a minute. I don't know about you guys and gals. That's a little ridiculous. Because that is Golzar to Brown. And Brown is getting here onto the front straight. Hamza Golzar is getting out of the pit lane right now. Where is he exactly? And he comes out ahead of Brown. Bravo. Bravo to this guy right here. Kevin Parody in the pit lane for the last time. That leaves Brown, Lanham, Parkinson. Lanham doesn't go for it. Brian Rasco, hold on. This could get very, very interesting, because Marquez has been stuck behind Lanham for the longest time, it seems like. And there's a touch. It's a dive bomb. We were just talking about it. Guys, stop spoiling the script. Stop leaking the script. There's a touch there. Lanham onto Rasco. Maybe a bit of a block. Ooh, that's looking a little not okay, but it's been a dive bomb from Marquez, so I don't really know. I don't really want to pick sides right now. Mom, come pick me up. I'm scared. And we'll see if the stewards say anything about this. Luke, 5 seconds. We'll see if that's for anything. Causing a collision, lap 25. So that'll get added on to the end of the race. Conway with that 10-second for speeding in the pit lane. I'm going to assume Parkinson in for the last time. And Spencer Brown as well. Whoa! A little sideways action there for the number 12. And you know, Butch, I do agree with you. In some regard, rubbing is racing. Especially in stock cars, because those things you can just throw at a wall. So, that leaves Lanham as the sole driver who has not pitted for the final time. Still 8 minutes to go. Maybe trying to shorten that last stint as much as possible, so we can be on the freshest rubber. But, I mean, really, at this point, does it matter all that much? I mean, we don't know where he's going to come out, of course. I'd have to take a look at all the... If I take a look at the track map. If he goes in right now, I mean... I'm not too certain where he may come out within the top 10. I don't want to bet on it, probably outside the top 10. But, yeah, no, it's just at this point, just get it done. You know, if you go in now, it's only going to be, what, maybe another 11 and a half or so minutes of racing. Brian Rasco, he's got alongside, he makes a touch, and he's off. He's off onto the gravel. Probably not too pleased with that. However, he knows, oh goodness, does he have steering damage? No, it looks like he's just having trouble. Just that little, oh, and that's, who is that? That is the Mercedes of Luke, who was, I think, off on the gravel there for a second. Oh, jeez, that was close. So it looks like Rasco just got a little rassled there and kind of missed his break point. But he knows Lanham will have to serve this pit stop and penalty within the next 6.5, unless he wants to get another penalty, which is never fun. Spencer Brown, Tommy Cogan, they're still going at it. It hasn't changed. Seems like no matter what, these two are locked. The rings are together. Luke into the pit lane. That's very odd. That might be, what, fuel and then 5 seconds and then get back out there? You know, a 5-second penalty? I'm not certain of strategies. But this is the battle for P9 continuing on for another lap. We had a bit of a break in the action, but these two decided that they were done taking that break and got right back into the swing of things. You love to see it. So Lawrence Lanham, does he go in? We'll take a quick gander to see if he does. That's Javier Marquez. That's the wrong BMW. Alright, let's see. So 5.5 minutes to go before the pit lane closes. There it is. So Lanham is going to be done. There's Brian Rasco sailing on through. There is the McLaren of, I believe, Bateman. That is Bateman going through. So there it is. Lawrence Lanham, the last driver to serve a pit stop. And we check back in with two of our favorite Audis. Spencer Brown, Tommy Cogan, P9 is looking to go in Brown's favor, but he's still got 10 minutes to get it done. Actually, this will be P8 actually, excuse me, because they're going to go past Lawrence Lanham right there. So Lanham falling way down the grid. We'll see. Jonathan Bass will most likely pick up a position as well. Yeah, Lanham is going to be sitting there for quite a long time. And there's Bass. There he is, just peeking up and over. Just Colin Bateman. So yeah, Lawrence is going to come out in P10. It looks like, yeah, he's going to come out P10. We just had someone leave. Let me make sure it wasn't any of these front runners. Oh, we've lost Wilson. We've lost Andrew Wilson. Another disconnect here. What is happening? Yeah, Wilson doesn't exist. Wilson has been Thanos snapped. I'm not certain if that's on his end or the server's end, but it's unfortunate. Right at the end. It's the second time we've had it happen tonight. Had it with blue, we're having it with red. It seems like no matter what, the pain will follow. Speaking of pain, Tommy Cogan's feeling a lot of pain right now as that gap has expanded far more than what it was before. Just about a second. Although it does have a P8 for his troubles. Hamza Golzar. Where is Marquez? If I look, and oh my god. Is that the start? He's not even in... He's just now getting into Sector 3. 26.7 seconds. If you ever needed an example of what smurfing in a, like, top-tier racing league is, this is it. This is smurfing. This is exactly what it looks like, but you're not using a fake name. You're not like, you know, Jimmer Broadbent 2. You're yourself, and you're driving as yourself, and you go from there. And that's how it is. There is Braden Thompson there, chasing down Colin Bateman, excuse me. This will be for a blue flag. Sanchez has gone around Weldon at some point. Oh, I remember. I have the memory of a goldfish sometimes, and I ain't talking about the snack that smiles back, unfortunately. Darren Wicks is now having to deal with Kevin Parody, the Pro-Am Canadian, chasing down the Amateur Canadian. Last season, Parody was Amateur, and I think he got promoted right at the end, but I could be wrong. Does Gulzar win every track? It seems like he does. There have been races he hasn't won. I have my notes here. If I look, I could give you a recap. So let's see. He won the first race of last season, because of course he did. He didn't win the race afterwards. Race 2, he didn't win the race after that. I mean, you're more often betting on Gulzar or Dornelis winning a race. Now, obviously, these two are in separate splits this time, thankfully. So we have a little bit of variety in the who wins a race. Actually, no, I feel like I'd rather have them both in the same race. I retract my statement. They need to be in the same split. But anyways, no, Hamza Gulzar has been one of, if not the most consistent driver I have ever seen in any sim racing game. Not just here in the OOR, not just here in the league. Anywhere. He is incredibly quick. He is so deadly on track. Last season, I forget what the gap was to second place. Actually, I wrote it down. I should be able to tell you what it was. So let's see. Gulzar, before everything was sort of settled, Gulzar had a 258 point gap to Skylar Loverank. That was before the last race of last season took place. Gulzar just went ahead, did his thing, and completely shut everybody down. So he's looking to do it again this season. So if you see him on track for any reason, please just back out. Just get out of the way, let him through, don't hurt yourself. If we look to the last race, he won the very first race of the season at Paul Ricard, that 20-minute sprint, and then he got third in that 40-minute race. And keep in mind, because he won at Paul Ricard on the Super Sprint format, he had to start all the way in P12. Fought his way through, and this is without pit stops. There's no pit stops in Super Sprints. There are no mandatory pit stops, I should say. He came all the way back from 12th, went to 3rd. Whoa, Darren Wicks! Now is not the time to drift. The race isn't over yet. Parody going on through. Says thank you very much. And sorry about that, eh? But yeah, to go from 12th to 3rd is sort of beyond me. But he is on track for another win. Another dub, if you will. Cleared by about 30 some odd seconds to Javier Marquez. But things, I believe, might be over and done. Spencer Brown still with Tommy Kogan, keeping him company. Maybe both of these drivers deciding that they're better off just running the clock and taking the positions they have, or maybe going for gold and, well, getting a little bit extra for their troubles. But this race pretty much done and dusted at this point. Sean Conway has to give way to Jonathan Bass right now, getting blue flagged. This might not be the spot to do it. Maybe up here, rather. Have a little bit more straight line to work with. Yep, and there it is. Just pulls off to the side, hits the brakes, and Bass goes right on through. Perfect blue flag procedures. But 2.5 minutes to go. If Gulzar continues these low 23s, this guy, he's running low to mid 23s. So we'll have 3 more laps, I think, if you include final. So we're not out of the woods quite yet. We've lost a couple of drivers here this evening. Still a very solid outing. And then after this, of course, we are going... Oh yeah, well, Andrew Wilson. He's getting connection issues. It's unfortunate for him. So that's what that was all about. But next week we'll be at Misano for that mini enduro. An hour and a half, and I don't believe any mandatory pit stops. But that leaves it up to the drivers to figure out whether they want to go 100, or not 100, 90 minutes on one set, or they want to split it up. Because that is quite the ask. Hamza Gulzar, where is he? There he is. So this will actually be the last lap. I got my times mixed up. But what an evening this man has had. So we'll be here when he crosses the line now. We'll leave him alone for a little bit. We'll join back up just as he is getting ready to finish the race. Darren Wicks has gotten back around Kevin Parody for position number 12, the amateur class driver, showing Mr. Parody how it's done. And behind them is Conway, 10 seconds. I don't know if this is for... No? Oh, that might be for the speeding in pit lane, rather, that we saw earlier on. Oh yeah, drivers just getting ready for their last lap of Brands Hatch, a circuit I personally am a huge fan of and I love racing on. Always close, always exciting. And we have gotten that this evening. And we had it earlier today with EU, and I'm glad NA was able to continue that train. And hope to see it again next week at Misano, a track that I personally have never had good luck with. Final lap, Darren Wicks, Kevin Parody, Sean Conway, just behind. Alright, well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been the Hamza Gulzar race. Not the show, he hasn't been on camera too much, but this man right here, out of the final corner. We're going to see what the gap looks like. A little bit of celebratory weaving, flashing the headlights, and Hamza Gulzar makes it number 2 on the season here at Brands Hatch. And let's see what the gap looks like to Javier Marquez, a Colombian driver, making a splash here in North America. Jonathan Bass across the line in 9th position. What is this gap? I need to know what the gap looks like. It's got to be 30 seconds, surely. It's got to be 30 seconds. What is it? 33. I'm going to say 32 just because he slowed down. I'm going to say 32 seconds. Rasco across in P number 3. Braden Thompson, top 5 finish for him. Eduardo Sanchez didn't quite get back to position number 5, but from mid-pack all the way up to P5. That's a beautiful recovery from him. There is Darren Wicks. He will finish ahead of Kevin Parody, and Spencer Weldon makes it position number 6 at the end of everything. Spencer Brown, number 7. Tommy Kogan, the Waifu Express. Looks like that delivery was delayed. Has to settle for P8. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here tonight for North America here at Brands Hatch. So we're going to take one final peek over at the timetables before we skedaddle on out of here. So, of course, overall, Hamza Gulzar, 33. We're going to call it 32 seconds because of the slowdown from Marquez at the end. And then Brian Rasco joining them on the podium. 3 different nationalities: Canadian, Colombian, and American. In Pro-Am, we've got Marquez, Sanchez, and Weldon, 2 McLarens on the podium as well. Really good recovery drive there from Sanchez once everything was said and done. Amateur class, Lanham, Wicks, and Luke. Luke, unfortunately, not making it to the checkered flag, but still top 3. And then silver, of course, it's Bateman, Conway, and Parkinson. And how could we forget the Simrigs safety car in a league of its own? But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here tonight. These drivers have a week between now and next week at Misano. We're going to be in for quite a treat, I think. That hour-and-a-half race is going to shake things up a little bit. And we'll see just how these drivers handle that. Of course, one final shout-out to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 12 of the Sprint Series. I've talked enough about them. Melbourne-based supplier of sim racing gear. Australia, New Zealand, you're covered. Anywhere else, send them an email. Patreon member, 5% off your in-store purchases. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here tonight. On behalf of myself and everybody here at the OOR, we'd like to thank you so much for your continued support as always. But until next time, stay safe, stay beautiful, and let's get ready for some mini endurance.